All right, y'all. Welcome to All Politics of Local America's number one
Number one.
hip hop radio talk show. Y'all know if it is Friday, it is time for All Politics of Local. And more importantly, y'all know if it is the third Friday, y'all know it's time for the Mayor's Forum with our beloved brother, the one and only Mayor Raz J. Baraka, who should be joining us shortly. So we've got a number of other things that are going on. John, you can give the rundown, either you or Zaid.
All right. So at 7 o'clock, we're going to have State Assemblywoman Britnee Timberlake on talking about some legislation on foreclosures. We know that some real news happened recently with that, and we're going to have a conversation because we know that we always say that Britnee Timberlake is the hardest working legislature in the business because she's always looking at some bills, pushing them forward. So this is going to be a real good conversation about this latest effort on to protect home ownership and family wealth, because that's the bill she's pushing. We know that she's getting a lot of pushback on that from the governor's office. And so that's going to be a real interesting conversation. We know that at 7:45, we're going to have Larry Hamm on with Attorney Robert Tarver and the family of Carl Dorsey talking about police violence. And at 8:25, we're going to have DJ Rhino on with Dr. Dennis Rogers talking about the Morehouse Howard football game and at the Meadowlands. So it's going to be a full packed show, but now it is the Mayor's Forum with the Honorable Mayor Raz J. Baraka. Welcome back to All Politics Are Local.
What's going on, fellas? Good evening to y'all.
What's good, man?
What's happening?
What's going on, my brother?
Same stuff that was happening yesterday.
Okay.
Well, listen, man, we hadn't spoken to you since you walked 13 miles, brother.
I know, man.
Oh, true.
So how did you do that?
I was hurting for 2 days, brother. You underestimate that greatly. You believe that you're just walking, and walking is nothing. It's not running, but brother, I was in serious pain.
I got to do a 7-mile walk. Not this Monday, next Monday.
Yeah.
Domestic violence walk in New York City.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate
18 miles, boy, it killed me.
Well, yeah. I definitely appreciate the movement and being healthy at the same time, right? Like it's like motivation because we always have to worry about self-care, taking care of ourselves. So it's a good way to combine and multitask that as well, right? Like we have the thing that we're looking for, which is very serious, but we're also doing it in a way that's actually, walking is good.
Yeah.
But now let me ask you this though, man. So once you got started, did that come up in your mind? Like, wait a minute, I got 13 miles to go. You know what I mean? Or you just kept going.
Well, when I got over there by University Hospital, I started trying to figure out how many more miles we had left. The wear and tear on your back and your legs and your feet. I had the wrong shoes on. You know, I wasn't prepared for that at all. That last mile was just a killer.
Wait, hold on.
Full adrenaline.
Wait. Time out. Serious question. You knew you were going on a 13-mile walk and had the wrong shoes?
Yeah, I had the wrong shoes on, brother. So.
All right, man. Sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that. Because that's tough. That means you are committed definitely to that. Because bad shoes. You might have had to make a phone call in the middle of that mark. Like somebody needs to come get those shoes for the right shoes.
We made it though. That last push from Georgia King to Westside High School was felt like a longer than the march itself. But when you saw Westside High School, you just got rejuvenated. You felt like, oh, we made it, and all of those people up there.
Now, it clearly is worth it, right? Like, because can you talk more about not just why, for the reason for the 13-mile march, but also all the stuff around it? There's been a lot of talk about, and there's been a lot of talk about crime. There's been a lot of talking about rethinking policing. We were talking, like, I think maybe 2 weeks ago or maybe even last week to Keisha Yuri about just all the things that are going on in Newark in terms of anti-violence that should be replicated nationwide. And I noticed that even when people are having conversations, like there was a recent Meet the Press that was associated with policing, whole hour dedicated to policing. They didn't talk about any anti-violence programs. They didn't talk about any of the real public safety innovations that is happening within Newark. What
Yeah,
was the reason for the march, and how does that fit into the recent things that we've been doing?
even even today when we had our Facebook Live, the police chief referred to the Office of Violence Prevention and referring kids immediately as soon as they runaways. He started talking about people who are running away from home, that we're going to refer them to the Office of Violence Prevention. And that's just really a culture shift, like a change that we all responsible somehow. And that's really what it is. And if you're treating violence as public health, then there's an education component, the same way we educate people about COVID, and to educate people about violence, where it comes from, the culture of violence, how to stop it, how to identify trauma, all of those things you have to educate people on. I think we take that part for granted. All those people that were traumatized when somebody runs into a store and Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles and kills a man trying to rob him, a popular guy, in public, and other people are videotaping it. The kind of trauma that releases, not just on that community, but all of us, the fear and how paralyzed people become because of that, and the hopelessness that you feel. Like, if this person can get killed, who am I? That kind of sentiment, gets in people's heads. So it's important for people to see community coming together, galvanizing around issues that are anti-violence and issues that are starting to talk about life and love and productivity and collectivity. Because you can't fight all the issues that we're against if we did, right? So it doesn't make any sense to be fighting for voting rights and against racism and white supremacy and all this other stuff that we're dealing with if we can't even protect our own generations from the death and violence that occurs in our community. We have to keep ourselves alive to benefit from the things that we're fighting from. It just really doesn't make sense not to actually do both of those things at the same time. So that's really what it's about. It's about challenging a culture of violence that has been accepted as okay, not just in our community, but in America. Right? America is a violent place, and it breeds violence and
Wild West.
romanticizes violence, and us being a part of the most vulnerable, is also infected by that in ways that ravage our community. That culture of violence in America, coupled with self-hatred, is a recipe for the disaster that you see taking place in our community.
Jonathan, I'm sorry, Jonathan. I appreciate you lifting up that Meet the Press special. That's what they called it, right? And I actually want to organize some responses to that special that address some of the things that you lifted up, because we do have some good things going on in this town that other cities are looking at, right? And we need to sometimes there's another space for a cultural shift. We are in a media space, and that the broader mainstream media space needs to understand sometimes they too have to go through cultural shifts and not just force that old paradigm that public safety means police and only police when it comes to the communities being safe and communities having what they need. When communities are organized and communities are organized to take care of themselves and put certain things in place to be safe and fight for things to be safe that go beyond the limitations of policing, that's what we're talking about, right? That's what we're talking about. So I just wanted to, elevate what you lifted up, because it's another place for us doing this work to try and push the discussion further, so we can kind of support these resources that we need to continue to do this work.
That's right on the money. And I think that just stems from the fact that people believe that the violence is endemic in our community, and is like more genetic than anything else, which is steeped in white supremacy. So
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, that's what their answer is going to be to what's going on in our community, as opposed to a holistic approach. Because if you think people can't be fixed, you're not going to make policies that fund opportunities to get that done.
Wait. Can you break that down for us? Like, you were saying that if people think that violence is like endemic, it's just going to be like our communities are just violent, and therefore you need more police. And you're saying that's very different from the way you're looking at it, where it's like fixed or like, what does that mean? Like, can you break that down?
Well, I mean, I think it's clear, but at the end of the day, if people believe that it's genetic, that means it's endemic or natural. There's nothing you can do about it. That violence will always be here. People will always kill each other. And I listen to police officers and people under our employ say the same thing. Well, you can't get rid of homicide. You can't stop people from killing. They're always going to do that. Well, that's not true, right? People aren't born to murder each other. So that kind of thinking is, in the basis of, this racism, rights, because all communities don't do this. So for you to say that, what I mean, we're not doing it at this level, right? And there's some poor white communities that this happens in, and Native American communities and Latino communities, and all of this stuff. And so there's some class basis behind some of this stuff as well. There's also some racial undertones to it as well. And people want it to be about the fact that, Black people are violent, as opposed to we were raised in violence, and violence is around us. And, violence was heaped upon us. And so our answer to most things have become that, because that's how people have dealt with us. We've learned violence as survival in this country. And so at the end of the day, those things can be addressed. And if we look at it as public health, I mean, it could be eradicated the same way the polio was eradicated, or the mumps, or the measles was eradicated, or the way we're dealing with COVID. We had 800, and I said this over and over again because I like to put this in people's heads. We had over 800 people die from COVID-19 in Newark in 2020. Right? That's a lot of people in 1 year from one thing, over 800 people. In 2021, the number dropped to a little over 200. Right? In 2022, year to date, we are under 70. So there's something to be said about a public health approach that can be used in different aspects. Like, you could use it for different things. Like, if you got a deadly virus that's wiping people out, the strategies you use to reduce the deaths and sicknesses among people, you can use the same strategies to get rid of violence if you treat it as public health. I believe that, and that's what we're doing. So there's an educational component to that, which involves marches, which involves speeches, which involves teachers, which involves 24 hours of peace, which involves all cultural workers. It involves all of those things. It involves re-education. I think some of the times when violence in our community probably was the least is when we was organizing the most.
Right. Absolutely.
Interesting.
Absolutely. Consciousness was higher. The community was better organized. Community was mobilized. Community was engaged, and it makes a difference. It makes a difference. I want to commend you and everybody on those big outings. That was an anti-violent walk that we're talking about. That brought the whole city together. All 5 wards, to be followed up by another successful 24 hours of peace. Right. Yeah. So let's appreciate our wins and our gains, right, and our pluses when we get them, because that was hard work too, and the work was good, and it was good to see. I'm very proud of what everybody did.
And one thing that happened out there that I thought was very powerful, because we had certain rappers, and those kids don't normally come to our thing, so we had a different strategy. We usually bring specific people out, and you bring the people who come out who probably don't need to hear the message. So we brought specific people out, and the place was jam-packed with all these young kids from all over the place, jam-packed. And one of the guys got up there and rapping. They were saying some of the things that I thought was like crazy. And Hakeem Green got up there and said, how many people in the crowd have had somebody in their family or best friend been victimized or killed by violence? And all of these kids,
all them hands went up.
It was hundreds of kids with their hands in the air, which was crazy. And then he says, do we celebrate that? And they was like, no. We don't celebrate that, right? And that in and of itself, right, to me, just say that right after that, was a teachable moment that he did with them children out there, letting them know that this is difficult. And so we're trying to stop this. We want to prevent this. That feeling you feel right now, that's the feeling your friends and neighbors feel when you do that to them, which is why we needed to go away,
Speaking of which, did we get any press on that? That
we got
was the highlight. But I mean, with that particular moment, that's one of the things we really need to get lifted up.
I know. Not really. You know, NJ.com was out there. They wrote something, and the other, articles wrote whatever. But, they wrote what they write from their perspective. But that, to me, was like one of the most powerful moments.
Indeed, it was. Everybody's talking about it.
Yeah, they put their hands in the air. That was like, just seeing that from the stage was like, damn. And some of these were little children, man, who lost relatives and friends.
Right.
Their hands in the air. That means that our community is being devastated, being rocked hard by this stuff. Right. And that weekend, there was madness happening all over the country.
Labor Day weekend.
It was tough. It was tough. It was tough for Baltimore. It was tough for Philly. It was tough for Chicago. It was tough. I mean, you're talking, 88 people being shot, 15 people being killed, all in one city. It was tough. It's just tough. And it's almost like we're in competition with who could kill the most of us. And the reality is we have to address it. And the way we address it is to try to do that. And some of the conversations are going to be harsh ones. We have to have conversations with each other. We got to talk about what's going on. And like I said at the thing, like, there's a whole bunch of reasons why these things happen, but we have to stop cooperating with our enemies.
Right.
Yes.
Right. I want to deal with one specific area that you talked about, right? So let's around the whole idea of culture, because that was a conversation that I was having with a young brother who used to write for Billboard. And, he was talking about a proposal he was going to make to the National Black Political Convention, because he was saying that he was having a conversation with the brother who was recently murdered, PNB Rock in California. And what he said,
he was at our 24 hours apiece too, brother.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah. So, he was saying that the conversation he was having was that somehow they believe that this whole culture of violence and murder is a part of culture. And I'm saying, well, when they're using that, what culture are we talking about? Because that's not
American culture.
Not our culture.
American culture. That is true. It's a part of American culture, a part of the larger superstructure. This idea of violence, of conquest, of individualism, of murder, and taking things by force is as American as apple pie.
And all of them use that interchangeably, man. You know what I mean?
They do.
When you talk to them, they be like, "Oh, it's the culture, man. It's the culture." And this brother being murdered, it's almost like, yo, man, that's just part of our culture. I'm like,
and it isn't, and that's the stuff that we have. That's why the education is important. Why we have to push these pieces out, to educate these young people, because they don't have a clue historically what's going on, what's the relationship to the rest of the country, to the rest of the world, what's the relationship to production, what's the relationship to anything, to each other, right? They don't know that, and we have to express that to them. And talk about the violence that we undergone in this country and how we are resisting in multiple ways. Like, even when the George Floyd thing was going on, I was debating with some young cats from Grafton Avenue down there. The guy was trying to tell me that all we ever did was marched and sung. We never did nothing else. We never had any we never did anything else. I said, well, that's just not true, brother. I said, that's absolutely furthest from the truth. Like, there's we've done almost everything. So to say like, oh, he was saying that like we never responded, like we never rebelled, like, in Jamaica or something like that. I said, it's just not true.
Right.
It's just not true. Like, we've done everything from conventions to, to marching, to Negroes with guns, to the folks, to the Black Panther Party for self-defense, the Black Liberation Army. We've done all kinds of things. Right. So that's misinformation.
Yeah.
Right. It's misinformation, and makes people make mistakes that they don't necessarily have to make.
Yeah.
Right. And because they have the wrong information, and our job is to give people the right information. Right. Yeah. And that's what this cultural thing is about. Like, So once we get people in the right mindset, we need community-based organizations to organize people.
Yep.
Like to finish the job, to organize them, to mobilize them, to teach them, to educate them. That's what we need, right?
Yep.
That's exactly what needs to happen. I mean, you waiting for us to do it. You got to do it. If we provide you the resources, that's what you should be doing.
Yep.
Right. That's what you should be doing.
Speaking of which, and Ed, you mentioned the convention. I want everybody to know that October 1st, we're doing a showing of Nation Time at the Newark Public Library at 1 o'clock. And then we'll have a discussion on why what we're trying to do with the convention is important in 2022. Just put a pin in that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great.
You know, man, because one of the things that young brother was saying to me was, he said that, and I heard this from Chris too. He kind of pushed it back on us. He said, man, you 50-year-old brothers, man, aren't really conversating with us. We them 25 and 26-year-olds that y'all were, man, when y'all were going to them rallies and, going to
conferences,
Black Power. Yeah. And he said, y'all had all that. And, and he said, man,
we did all that.
You don't really have that. And he said,
that's
so
true
y'all talking about, but we talking to each other. And this is the kind of, I mean, he was keeping it real. He said, yo, man, this is the kind of crazy shit we talking about.
Yeah, that's true. But what I said is true too. Like a lot of stuff was organized by us and our peers and people like that. We brought the elders to the conference to speak.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
We brought them there to speak, to give us the information. Most of the conferences I went to, that's how I heard Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture. That's how I heard Farrakhan. I heard all kind of people speak. Dr. Ben. All these people I've heard in various ways at different conferences and events. People bring people in to speak, and it gives you a chance to sharpen your theory and your ideas and begin to figure out which direction you think you need to be going in. But ultimately, those were events that were held by college students or folks like that organized them.
Yeah,
definitely, and they brought people to come speak.
Yeah, I think that's part of what I think. If we're gonna help these brothers, is that we've got to find a way to help change the conversation with them, and start talking to them, right? Because I learned a tremendous amount talking to these young brothers. I didn't know who P&B Rock was. I most certainly learned a lot. I didn't really know who Baby was, and learned something from that conversation. But I think that, if these brothers, are willing, to sit down and have a conversation, because I asked them, I said, yo, man, I said, are y'all willing to have a conversation with Mayor Baraka and Mayor Lumumba publicly? I mean, y'all got major fame, sit on the stage and talk to your peers and have a real conversation about some of y'all lyrics, man. Because I told them that, listen, man, if you high in some of the, crazy shit y'all be saying, hey, man, that set them young brothers off, man. And I told him that, and he said, yeah, he said, you're right. He said, but listen, man, he said, I'm keeping the REAL, man. That's my life. Well, that was your life, because that's not your life now.
Right.
Right. Because these cats are living $1 million lives, man. They walking around with chains on their neck, and that's what caused the brother, to get robbed. He walking around with a chain on his neck that cost $750,000, man. I mean, you enticing these kids, you speaking that stuff too. And so, you telling the guy you don't have security. Then you telling the guy, yo, I'm not going to back down from nobody trying to rob me. Your life is worth more than the chain, brother.
Yeah. I was talking to a guy who'd been through all of that kind of street stuff. We were in a gym together. He was saying, man, those chains, all that stuff, that guy, if you all that's supposed to have insurance. So at the end of the day, somebody come, you just give it up. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Because your life is more important. This is somebody who's out there. Your life is more important. Your family, everybody else. You can't be out there wrestling with nobody over a material object that you can get back.
Yeah, that's man. That's what I told this sister today, man. We got a proposal, man, from that brother who was robbed, the bishop who was robbed for his chain in his church.
Yeah.
And, and the sister was saying that, she said, yo, he's friends with DJ Khaled, and he got this song out, called God Did, and he said, look, man, he said the bishop wants to, or he said the bishop did submit a proposal to us to come and do, a talk, and he wanted to, DJ Khaled is a friend of his. I said, look, man, all y'all are welcome, man. I said, but let's keep it real, man. At the end of the day, the kids y'all talking to, they don't have the money to pay, $200,000-$300,000 for chains, man. When we were coming through, the truth is, man, this is true. In the 90s, man, we weren't wearing chains. We were wearing medallions on our neck, man.
Yeah, but that's afterwards, though, brother. We first started with those big giant ropes.
Well, that's true.
Cool
That is true. LL Cool J,
right? All that, yeah. And then Public Enemy and the rest of them came out and did exactly what we were just talking about, changed the culture, like with one fell swoop. Big Daddy Kane, Public Enemy, all those people, KRS-One, they came out, Rakim, and just really changed the whole mindset. And so people started wearing African medallions. They started learning more about their culture, the 5% Nation. All of those things became more popularized because of the music and because of the culture. So when people say the culture is violence, it's not true. That's just not true. You haven't lived long enough to make that statement. You know what I'm saying? You haven't seen hip hop at its origin turn into everything that it's turned into, to actually selling people's commodities, to becoming a commodity itself, right? Because that's what it became. At first they sold Adidas, and now they became the actual Adidas. So and now you can get people on MTV to say, I am hip hop. When I was coming up, MTV wouldn't even play rap music.
That's right.
So
how about that?
So Michael Jackson was the first black artist they played.
Right. So you watch the changing of all of this, and all of that is about money and about the ability to have access to wealth that these people realized that lives inside of our culture that they can commodify. First they use it to sell goods around the country. We selling everybody Gucci, we selling them high liquor, we sell everything that's high end, we selling it to our community and beyond. We sell that, right? And then the art itself becomes the commodity to be gotten, and that's what's happening at this point. So it's far away from where we were. We were having hip hop conferences talking about these very issues and really about how people could get in the business side of it. So now many rappers know the business side of it and they making money. I mean, Jay-Z could have never been a billionaire in the 80s.
Right.
He could have never been a billionaire in the 80s and the 90s. He's a billionaire now because he knows the business, and people before him suffered that, and he learned from that in the discussions and conferences that took place. Now he's making billions of dollars, and there's other rappers who are making a whole lot of money because of the business side of it, right? Yeah. But you better believe if that guy's making billions, how much money these other people are making.
Oh yeah,
for sure on it,
Yeah.
And we just don't understand wealth at that level. Like at the men's meeting, I used to tell people, look, if you own diamonds, why you need money? Right? Money to you is just convenience to trade on the open market that we give our confidence in. But if you own the diamonds, right? If you own the actual oil, the actual raw material itself, the leather, not the sneaker, but the actual leather, right? That's a whole different ball game that we're talking about here. And these guys are murdering each other really over peanuts.
Yeah.
And stuff that may not even be real.
Yep. Yep.
And they just don't have that information. Like we're not talking to them. There's no conferences. There's no all those things to be able to speak to these young people and let them know. That's why I think 24 hours a piece is so incredible, because you got a captive audience, and it really means that we need to bring as much of them out we can. And then we do workshops. We talk to them. We grab people up. We use this as an opportunity to raise the consciousness, because that's really what it's about. You got to raise people's consciousness. You got to raise their consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesse Jackson was saying, take off the gold chain and put on the gold brain, right? He was saying that for years. Public Enemy put a black medallion on and Public Enemy on their chest, and they changed it in a couple of months. Yeah, that's the power of what it is our culture can do.
Yeah, and that's what I think about. When I think about that young brother PNB, he was only 30 years old, man. And I said, wow, man, when the brother was talking to me, I said, man, I said, he has no idea of what he could have done if he just stayed with it, man. You know what I mean? He was talking to some of the right people, but he was still in that environment. And somehow he believed, according to the brother from Billboard, that this whole idea of violence and culture was somehow part of the this whole thing to do with being black. And I'm like, yo, man, I think there's a confusion. And you're right, maybe we're not doing our part in terms of all of us talking and having the conversations. But again, man, you're right. I mean, we were on college campuses and we were inviting people to come speak. But I think that conversation has somewhat got stifled in the last 20 years. And these 20-year-olds and these 30-year-olds don't really have that information. And because they don't have that information, I think that, like Chris says, he doesn't really know any 50-year-old men, right? He don't know them.
That's bad.
It's very bad.
That's bad.
Why don't y'all lift up what's looming with the convention? You alluded to it, Ed. One of the two of you talk about it for a minute.
Well, I mean, the thing is, man, from our perspective, I think that, there's nothing more important, I think, right now, for what needs to happen, particularly, with Donald Trump talking about, if he gets indicted.
Ashes on the horizon.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing more important, I think, than Black folk being organized and getting together and having the kind of conversations that the mayor's talking about and being able to share ideas and open that up. And I think that the National Black Political Convention celebrating the 50th anniversary of what Baba Baraka did, back in 1972 is important, man. And it's nothing more important than having our mayor, with all of the work he's doing around anti-violence and really at this particular point in our history in the city of Newark, trying to get Black men to understand where they are in terms of their own power of being able to organize and take back our own city, not only one from violence but from an economic perspective as well. So I think all of that is important, man. But we've got to be the ones to do it. I say this to the mayor all the time. I think we are the ones, but if we don't do it right, and remember, them young kids are looking at us, man. And I think that if we don't come together and organize in the city of Newark and organize around the country, well, it's our fault, man. Right? We don't have nobody to blame but us. And I think that that's why the convention in of itself represents an important stamp at this point. And I think that's one of the things you remember when Tamika was on. Remember, that's what she said, right? When she talked about a need for Black people to come together. She said, we need a conference. We need a place where we can organize and we can talk and we can love on one another. And Black people need to see that, right? Folks aren't really seeing that.
I remember back in December when I think it was December when Mayor Baraka, you were speaking to Chokwe Lumumba, and just the most amazing conversation about water, right? Like you were comparing stuff that was going on in the two different cities about water, right? And you were telling him some stuff that was going on in Newark. He was talking about he was talking about some stuff that was going on in Jackson. And even though the situations were different, like the pressures, right? Like the billions of dollars that people are trying to do to buy the water supply, right? And then we had this conversation about water the last time we were on the show, and what happened in Jackson, like right after, like the next week, right? Jackson has a national water crisis, and had to, and we're seeing Mayor Lumumba on national television trying to get stuff together to get water running again, right? Like, so it's one of those things where that we're going through things that are so similar, even if they are different, right? And that just coming together, like me just being a fly on the wall, me just being able to be around when you were having that conversation was just instructive, right? It was informative. It was something that that really just, in a way, even uplifting to understand the amount of thinking that goes on into something as basic as like drinking water.
And none of this stuff is coincidental. See, the difference between, at least when people are organized, their mind is focused differently. Like they understand what's going on in their country and the world and their city. Right now, when there's so much confusion, people don't know why these things are happening. So they don't know who to blame or what the issue is. So this stuff is not coincidental. It's historical. We don't own the resources in our community. We're trying to own it, and if you do, you're trying to hold on to them. You know, the fact that people are disinvested in your community and you don't have the tax base or the revenue to deal with the stuff you need to deal with. You know, after they looted these cities, they allowed, you know, they ran away, and then black mayors began to take over in different places. But at the end of the day, it gets to it's difficult to deal with the stuff that you have to deal with the resources that you have and the disinvestment that you have. You know. Period. And with the tax base, you're talking about people who are in deep levels of poverty, you know, and not able to use those resources to defend or nourish themselves. It's the same way, like if you live in one of these developing nations, you live in a continent somewhere, and you know all of your resources are owned by European countries, and everything you make as a raw material is being shipped out somewhere else as a final product and being sold back to you.
That is neocolonialism, right on.
Mm-hmm. And that's basically, and people don't understand what's happening. They don't understand what this is about or what's going on. So even when you explain like gentrification, or you explain the forces of capital, and you explain all of the things that are going on in these communities and how to push back, the people blame individuals as opposed to blaming a system. And that benefits the people in charge who really with power, because when you don't blame the system itself, you think the system is okay. It's just that we're not doing it right. The system, or that is broke in your neighborhood. No. The system is not broken.
Yeah.
So, the system is broken. No, it's not broken. It is designed to do what it is in fact doing. What we're trying to do is change that, rearrange that, do some different things. And it's difficult, even if you just talk about policing and all that stuff, you know, it's in and of itself, there's so much into that, right? But then you have to fight the forces in your own community who don't understand why these things are going on and what's happening. So while you're trying to like create alternatives to policing, they're telling you we need more policing. And so nationally, when everybody was running around saying, "Oh, we need to do alternative policing," all this other kind of stuff, now the Democrats are pushing. They wanted me to get on these shows and start talking about why we need to hire more police instead of like the other way. And I just think that's the bad messaging, and I think they fell victim to the fact that they can't explain why these things are going on, because deep down they think it's you. They don't want to blame the system itself.
And I think that when you're dealing even with the messaging, right? Like I remember when during the protests of 2020, Newark had been already doing a lot of the public health anti-violence programs and pushing that. And then there was messaging that said defund the police. And you publicly were like, nah, I'm not for that, right? Like because the rhetoric, the language, like I'm not for that, right? And then explained what you were doing. Right. Like, so you're like, no, I'm for dealing with violence as a public health. I'm for dealing with trauma. Right. We need police as a part. And you were giving a very nuanced explanation of what it was. Right.
Actually, people were saying at that time, abolish the police. And that's what I spoke out against. And the reality is, and I said, and really what I said it's really a bourgeois response. And that's what I said in the paper.
Right.
It's really a bourgeois response to what's really happening in our community, because there's no real explanation. There's no real like fundamental explanation of what's going on and what should be done. When you say abolish the police, it doesn't make sense to me, because revolutionary countries got police, right? So the concept is thought of by people who don't live in these communities, right? Where 100% of the crime is happening to 20% of that neighborhood. So I can't go to my people in the middle of what they feel like is a war and say we're going to get rid of all of the police. They're going to think I'm crazy, right? Because somebody has to deal with what's going on now. While you develop something that works, somebody has to respond to what's happening now. Now, those contradictions, everything has contradictions. Some of them are antagonistic, some of them are not. And so we have to figure out, which contradictions are antagonistic and which ones are not, and begin to create a space where we can deal with both of those things at the same time. That means that reducing violence and making sure the police ain't killing us at the same time.
You broke down a concept, right? Like you said, you have to make sure and because this is actually really important, right? Like what you said, and because for people to think about, you said there's some contradictions that are antagonistic, and some contradictions that are not. So you this concept of contradictions and antagonism and non-antagonism. What do you mean by that?
Well, sometimes people see something like, so if you say police and they think there's a contradiction between police and community, constitutional rights and policing. Like, you can't have your rights and have police at the same time. It's a contradiction to most people because of what's going on now. The time and place makes these things contradictory, right? But they don't have to be antagonistic contradictions, meaning that they cannot live in the same space, right? And some contradictions are antagonistic, and so they turn into conflict. And conflict causes something else to take place or something else to be created based on those antagonistic, those conflicts hitting each other and becoming more and more antagonistic. Like, for example, people not going to be poor forever, right? You can't keep people in slavery forever, right? The contradiction between slavery and freedom is antagonistic. You understand what I'm saying? And so at some point, those forces are going to come head to head, and either you're going to be all slave or all free. Right. So those contradictions crash, and something is going to develop out of them fighting or warring with each other. It's natural, fundamental contradictions that cannot live together. It just can't. My father had a poem, "You can't be half free." Right. So at the end of the day, those contradictions are sharp. Right. And there's other things like, so you can have a police department. You could try to reform or move a police department in a direction where community controls it in such a way that we're able to get the things accomplished that we need to be accomplished in a slow and steady way, right? When the contradictions are not antagonistic, right? Those contradictions become antagonistic when you have police forces murdering the people in your community, and that's what causes them to become antagonistic, right? So they don't have to be, is what I'm saying. They don't have to be. And because we can't see it that way, we don't feel like that we can solve these problems, or at least, because this is how I look at it, right? When people say that, we're going to abolish the police until we make something different, right? And it's a privileged statement to make. That's why I said it was bourgeois, right? It's a privileged statement to make because you don't live in those communities. And who's taking a vote that in the meantime, while you're trying to get it fixed, somebody's going to die? Like, who gets to choose whose children are dying while you take your time trying to fix a system that's working, right? While you're trying to fix it to, like, abolish the police and create something new. In the meantime, when somebody's grandmother is shot on the porch, or kids are murdered on the street, a 14-year-old, a 7-year-old is shot in the car, a 3-year-old in Philadelphia, a 2-year-old at a cookout in the Bronx, like, who gets to choose which kids are those, and whose parents have to be victimized by that until we get our thing together? That's why I always say I don't have the time to wait for the workers of the world to unite. I got to do something today. And in the meantime, I support that, and let's push forward to make that happen. But we got to do something now. Like, we have to help people survive, because who are you changing the world for if everybody's going to be dead? That just doesn't make sense to me. Like, it doesn't. And that's why, I made those points about it being bourgeois, because I just think it's a privileged kind of concept, because most of the people who are saying stuff like that don't live between 19th Street and Avon 19th Street and Bergen and Avon and South Orange Avenue, where all of the stuff is happening at right now.
And you know, we've got to fly the plane and we've got to try to fix it at the same time.
Absolutely, because we don't have any choice.
Yeah.
We don't have any choice. I remember we used to say we have to build rafts to keep people afloat long enough till we change the whole thing till we get a new boat. But because the boat is sinking, but we don't want to die with the boat. You know, we got to get on the raft until we get a new boat. But and it takes like multiple people to be engaged and involved in that. It takes a higher level of kind of analysis to be able to understand what we're dealing with here and how long it's been going on, and realize, you know, that guess what? You're just not the smartest person in the world. Like there were people before me that were 10 times more brilliant than I am, right? And they haven't fixed it. They didn't fix it then. So this thing is protracted in my mind, and you know, we didn't get in this situation in 2 weeks or a month or 4 years even, right? So it means that we have to have constant struggle, constant, protracted, and, you know, onward kind of continuous struggle to deal with problems that are deeply intractable in our community.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I also think that it's never been just one thing, right? It's never been just a matter of police. It's been about, you know, it's been about us, and you know, as brother Bob Mtume used to say, you know, it's what we do to each other. It's us, you know, killing each other, but we don't want to talk about that. You know, we want to talk about what other people do to us. So we've got to be working on that issue. We've got to be working on the other issue. We've got to be working on all of this at the same time. And then we've got all those other issues that you talked about, you know, when the other mayors, other elected officials who were running the city before black mayors got the city, and all of the black folk now are putting all of the pressure on the folks who are there to make all the corrections that were done damn near, you know, 50 years ago, to try to change the conditions not only for what's going on in the present, but also in the past. And I think it's a hell of a job. But I also think that there are some people who are right for this time, and I think you happen to be one of those people, man. And I just think that you know, we've got to find a way, and I think you are, you know, with the men's meetings. I think that's it. I think, you know, what went on, you know, with holding the march. I think that's right. I think that 24 hours of peace is right. I think that all of those things are right because there are some people, you know, who want to come out. You think about all those people who came out at 24 hours of peace. For some of those people, they probably have not been out in the street like that since 2020. And so for them to be able to come out and feel safe and be amongst all of those people was an incredible thing. I mean, I saw that, and I've got to say to myself, you know, wow, you know, look at all of those black people, you know, and I just and you know, just to be able to see that and understand from you know where we're coming from, you know, I know we, you know, because you said this too, man. You said that none of us really knew 2 years later what the effects of COVID would be on our people, right? We're
Right.
seeing some of that, but I think that at the end of the day, you know, we've got to find a way to be able to do all of that and then some more in order to be able to turn back some of the real psychosis that have caused us to harm one another. I think we've got to do all of that.
I actually was thinking about, Ed, your statement made me think about something that the mayor talked about during COVID, and didn't talk about it much after that. But we look at a lot of, you were talking about a lot of technological innovations that were coming out about COVID that may have a disproportionate, maybe negative effect on our community, whether it be paperless, like, you know, not having money transactions, right? Like, we know that there are developments in artificial intelligence. We know that there have been this, like, things that are going online in terms of cybersecurity. We know that there's certain biological things that are going on, whether it be like vaccinations, et cetera, right? Like, you're in a lot of different circles. What have you seen in technology that may be affecting us in the coming year, in the coming, decade, that made you think about its implications on Newark? I know that's kind of seems like a left kind of a question, but I remember you talking about some things that you had seen dealing with money, dealing with like people not, touchless things, and during COVID. And do you think that based on stuff that happened in COVID, there's some different innovations that we just, we don't know about that we probably should?
Well, I think that things are becoming more and more disruptive, and we so far behind that what's happening now, like we're going to be way, way behind if we don't have access, like to basic, internet and services like that. I mean, just training and preparing people for jobs that don't even exist yet. They don't even know the names of these jobs. Our young people are just going to be so far behind. Our community is going to be so far behind. And how these things are working, and some of the stuff of like being able to shop without, without tellers and all these other people in the store. You can go in and out of the store, and they have some of these places now. You can go in and out of the store without having anybody help you or service you. Once you walk out the store, they can take the money right off of your card as you walk out the door, which really displaces people, especially people who are known as essential workers, right? Who got a new title, but not a new, didn't get any resources to attach itself to it. But the title was essential workers. And those are basically like people who drive the bus, people who serve you food, people who have to be in a supermarket because the supermarket is open every day. In the middle of the pandemic, people still got to go buy food. So they're in a supermarket or they waitresses in a restaurant. All of these people who were affected disproportionately by COVID, all of those jobs are going to be in question, and they are in question now. And if we aren't prepared for that, it's going to make our situation even worse than what it already is. Because those people are us. They have driverless cars. They have places you can go shop without tellers. They'll be able to have restaurants that you can eat at. I mean, there's the Brooklyn Chop House or the Dumpling House where you could just, because of COVID, you can go push buttons on a thing and it'll cook for you and drop down into a little chute. You open it up and your food comes out. These are the things that the direction of people going in. Even this whole work from home thing, right? So we can't work from home because you don't even got no computer. How you gonna work from home? Like you can't work from home. You don't got no computer. You don't got the internet. You don't have nothing. That now this whole push in corporate America and in city government, people fighting to work from home. They want 2 days home and 3 days at work and all that. And that affects businesses and restaurants and all these other places. And it's going to affect our lives and our economy. And we have to be on top of that. And we just some of the things we fight about and fuss about are so minuscule compared to the real problems that we're going to endure if we don't have guaranteed income. That King talked about. If we don't have, expanded child tax credits or expanded earned income tax credits, if we don't have opportunities to get cash in our pocket to make for all of this stuff that's happening, plus the wealth gap that already exists, right? Which means that we'll be in even worse shape than we're already in. So those things are, definitely concerning to me in these spaces. Listening to you go to these smart city conferences and all this other kind of stuff that's going on. We out here, we can really start painting roofs white. I mean, that's where we are, you know what I mean? To reduce the temperature in our community. There's a direct relationship between the high temperatures in our community and the amount of violence that goes on that we just got the data for.
Wait. So there's a connection. There's a correlation between high temperatures and violence. And you were talking about painting roofs white. Like, can you just break that down?
Yeah, I don't want to like miss the point, but at the end of the day, like I'm just saying, I raised that to say these are the things that we are trying to figure out when there's much more catastrophic and devastating things that are going to be happening in our community if we don't get right what we need to get right. So just the the temperatures in our communities because of the impervious surfaces, the blacktops, and the concrete and the metal and the iron and no trees and grass and all these things raises the temperature. And there's a direct correlation between the temperature and we haven't found a causal relationship, but there's a direct correlation between temperature increase and violence in our community. So that's something else that we have to deal with, as opposed to all of the real pressing things that are really. I have to speak at the governor's conference on housing. And they're really talking about housing in terms of renting, right? And that's important because 78% of the people in Newark rent, and people in the state don't even want to give people affordable housing. Hell, the people in Newark don't even want us to build housing for homeless next to them. I don't want to say the people in Newark, some people. And we have to deal with that. But ultimately, we should be talking about home ownership. Yep. And people think that's a crazy word. But listen, after World War II, the federal government dropped
subsidized home ownership for vets, absolutely.
And wasn't nobody worried about inflation then. You can't even pay people's damn college loan. And these people fixed the interest rates and basically gave out money so people could own homes and create a middle class in America, a white middle class in America. And nobody was screaming about interest rates then, right? And when the place was in a deep, heavy depression, not recession. And one of the ways they did that was to begin to create these work projects, organizations, and putting people to work on mass projects like we did with the lead service lines, and put a fund together to make sure they financed home ownership and built roads so people can, after they bought the home, can continue to work in the city, so they can take the car to the city to get their job, keep their job, and go back in the suburbs where they live. But now that whole process is being reversed because they realize that they don't want to live in the suburbs. You need to live closer to transportation, closer to the jobs, and that we don't want to drive anymore. We want public transportation because messed up the air and the atmosphere and everything else. So now we got this word called gentrification. And what does that mean? It means that people want to come back to the cities that they left. That they want to have the ability to live next to the train and the plane and all this other kind of stuff, and their job.
Yep.
At the same time, that's what it means. And these are forces that are greater than somebody sitting on Broad Street. And ultimately, while we have to do all that we can to push buttons to do this and do that, to try to figure out how to mitigate and cover people from an avalanche that's coming, because we live in a system that's designed to crush you, to prevent as many of us from dying as possible, there has to be a larger kind of conversation and discussion about how to change that fundamentally, while at the same time we save as many people as we can. That's a dual conversation that has to happen simultaneously, and we have not been able to really figure that out as clearly as we should. And so we still stuck on the fact that Du Bois argued with Booker T, and not realize that. I just had a conversation with my mother a couple of days ago, that if you look historically, like Booker T was funding some of the civil rights stuff, right? And Du Bois, who was mad at Garvey for talking about the Back to Africa movement, where did he retire and die at? In Ghana.
That's right.
In Ghana. Right. So some of these things that we look at as contradictions, as conflicts, are not. And we have the ability to see this full, because we're looking at it from our perspective. We can see all of that, and we don't know the entire story. We make mistakes. We don't know the entire. So Garvey shouldn't have been fighting Du Bois.
Yep.
No, they should have been together, because listen, Garvey got deported to London. That's where he was at. Mm-hmm. And Du Bois went to Ghana and died in Ghana when he was telling Garvey we shouldn't go back to Africa. We need to be fighting here. But guess what? Those are not antagonistic contradictions.
Right.
We can fight here, and we can go back to Africa. Who says we can't do both?
That's right.
Who says we can't have both? Right? And we can build a situation where both of those things are reality. Everybody else could do that. They fight here and they go back to their home country. Mm-hmm. Some of them even have dual citizenship.
Yes. And that was one of the important things that came out of the 1619, that Ghana wanted to do dual citizenship, with us trying to do that. And we do need more than that. And that is something we can do. And it's not new
It's not new. This is not new stuff. This is like you have to really read the stuff you say you advocate for. You just have to read it and you get some understanding of what's happening. Then you're able to think
All our
about it in a
studies.
different way. Yeah, you got to
Best
study.
qualified waters of all research.
That's right.
Baby Baraka, as you said.
That's the last thing I want to say. Go ahead. Who that?
No, you know, I was just going to say, as you said, we have agenda with 10 things. We get to number 3 and everything falls apart instead of sitting number 3 over here and go to number 4 and keep it going. We got
That's exactly right.
got to learn how to do that.
That's exactly right. We got to be able to do that. And you know, ultimately, like if you want to be a scientist, you have to study science. You want to be a mathematician, you have to study math. Like you can't say you want to be a revolutionary and you have not studied revolution. Like or an activist and have not studied activism. This doesn't make any sense to me. Right. Or movements, right? If you don't know what you're talking about, you should not be talking. My mother used to say, no investigation, no right to speak.
No right to speak.
That's right. No investigation, no right to speak. So ultimately, if you're going to talk about something, know what you're talking about. Do some research on it. You can't talk about it just because you're upset or emotionally charged about it. Go get some information. You don't investigate. You don't have any right to be before people telling them stuff. If you have not investigated it, right? And that's important for us to do that and challenge each other around those ideas and be comfortable enough to be challenged around ideas. Because guess what? You ain't always right. And sometimes you might read something and interpret it the wrong way. And analysis is based on our ability to challenge or have polemics, to challenge each other about the things that we discovered and try to get to a higher point. That's what unity and struggle means, right? You know, my whole damn near childhood, I was listening to unity and struggle. It wasn't to an adult that I began to really understand fundamentally what unity and struggle means, right? And at Ron Rice's street naming, I said he was probably the only one that I saw with the unity and struggle, the thing like in his face as an elected official. I mean, I'm sitting in a meeting with Senator Rice with another person and myself and the senator on opposite sides of the same issue. So the guy comes in a meeting thinking he's going to exploit that. So he comes in a meeting and says, well, Mayor Baraka doesn't agree with that. And then he says, well, that's my mayor. That's what he told the guy. Like, that ain't your mayor. That's my mayor, number one. Number two, whatever problems we got don't involve you.
That's right.
Right now, I've never heard anybody say anything even remotely close to that in situations that were like that, right? Said that it don't involve you. Like, you can't come in here. And he looked at me, and I looked at him like, I don't even know why you tried to go that route. Like, because when it's all said and done, I'm going to be with the senator.
Right.
Like, you're a stranger here, brother. So at the end of the day, you can't come in my house and exploit the differences between myself and my brother. We might jump you in here. Right. And then argue when you get outside. You know? but ultimately, that kind of unity, that's what we need, man. We just don't have that. We just don't have it at that level. We just don't have that. We don't have that. We just, you know, when I saw Senator Rice do that, it just strengthened my resolve that this is right. This is what should be happening because, you know, he checked that dude in that meeting and we still had our contradictions, but it wasn't antagonistic. We still had our contradictions and we talked about those and we continue to talk about it, right? You know, but it was somebody else who, once again, thought they could get between us, and they couldn't. Yep. I got to go see Raisin in the Sun at NJ Pack, brother.
I can't see it.
Oh,
I can't see it. I got all set out.
I got to get out of
It's
here.
tomorrow. It's tomorrow as well, right?
Yeah, tomorrow as well.
I'll be in New York City tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be there tomorrow.
Listen, man, thank you for coming through to the forum, my brother.
Already,
Thank you.
man. You know, I love it. You know, I get a chance to get on an event, brother. So appreciate y'all.
No, we're always learning. We're always learning and appreciating.
Thank you.
How you doing, Assemblywoman?
Hey, Mayor, how are you? Great segment.
All right.
It's going to be a good show tonight. I'm going tomorrow.
All right.
All right, take care. And so we always love all politics are local. We love the moments like right between when people, you know, are on at the same time. And welcome Assemblywoman Timberlake. We're always honored to have you on. I always say that you are the hardest working legislature in New Jersey, right? Like, because you're always focused on really important bills that affect people's lives. You passed a lot of legislation in your first 2 terms, or at least led a lot of legislation to be passed, had lots of coalitions. And we have this bill that's going on right now, right?
Yeah.
What's going on right now that is that's dealing with housing and trying to help intergenerational wealth. That it's again having some problems. Can you tell us about that? Can you tell us what's going on right now? Wonderful legislator, Assemblywoman Britnee Timberlake.
Thanks so much, Jonathan, and good to see you, Ed and Baba, and of course the amazing Donna K. Williams, who is always doing good stuff for the people and putting people first. I love her very dearly, and I truly mean that. So yes, we have the Community Wealth Preservation Program, and this is a bill that is deeply personal. And the reason why it's deeply personal is because of some of what the things that Mayor Baraka was just saying. If you understand the history of our people, if you understand Black history and the way in which we have been kept out of the opportunity to build wealth in this country through redlining and hindering us from getting mortgages and property and devaluing our properties, all of the above, companies owning the communities that we live in for years, live in and shop for years, very little Black-owned real estate going around in primarily Black-lived communities. So the Community Wealth Preservation Program is a bill that addresses foreclosures in a way that has not been done before in this country. Currently, if you go down to the sheriff's sale, if your house is in foreclosure, or if there is a house in foreclosure and you wanted to buy it, you would need 20% down, cash or money order, and the rest of the money due within 30 days, with interest building on the 11th. It's a market that's primarily dominated by cash buyers. They're buying the houses for pennies on the dollar. So if you are struggling to keep your home and maybe you're talking with your bank before it hits foreclosure, you might ask for something, say, hey, is there a principal rate reduction? Or some of them know to offer it, but don't offer it or won't offer it or can't because of their banking programs and what they believe is right. A principal rate reduction is, let's say you owe $400,000, reducing the principal to about $200,000. The house is probably underwater anyway, and they end up kind of like writing off that other $200,000, right? So usually the banks don't work with the homeowner in that serious way of a principal rate reduction in order to save their home. They might do an interest rate reduction, which is something that is different. That's playing with the interest rate to save you money on long-term interest, which will help save you money on your monthly payment. But a principal rate reduction is about equity, okay? That's about what you can have in your house if you were to need to sell it in the future. And that's how you build wealth in this country. Homeownership is the #1 wealth building tool, not just in this country, but really around the globe. So where am I getting at? The Community Wealth Preservation Program would require or would allow, if you were trying to save your home, or let's say, you know, your adult son or daughter found out that the home was going to be foreclosed on, maybe you didn't tell them, maybe it was pride or whatever, and they can go down to that sheriff's sale, make them buy this back with just 3.5% down, 90 business days, which is in line with financing standards. This is a game changer because currently right now, this is a market predominantly dominated by people who are only wheeling and dealing in cash and have quick access to dollars. And historically, that has not been our people. I would like to one day say that that's not the case. But historically, and the way it is currently, we are the minority in being able to wheel and deal with deep pockets of cash. The interesting thing is maybe some people in the banking industry go, why would they give a principal rate reduction? Well, if the house is about to go into foreclosure, why not offer that to the homeowner? Because by the time it does go to the foreclosure sale, that house that you owe $400,000 on, they start the bid at about $200,000. So they basically are willing to give a principal rate reduction to an outside investor instead of passing the savings onto the homeowner to keep community wealth. So this bill is very important. It made it all the way to the governor's desk.
So
We
just
tried
to,
to.
so just to simplify, right? Just to simplify, right? Like, because a lot of times, like, it's just we're dealing with finances within our community. Sometimes we just don't understand what that difference would be, right? Like, so what you're saying is that when you buy something that's based off of foreclosure, there's like a discount, an interest rated discount that you get. Am I reading that?
No, not an interest rate. There is a principal rate reduction that you get when you go down. So the property flippers, there's a reason why that market exists, because they're buying your house, if you foreclosed on, for pennies on the dollar. They're not buying it for what you owed the bank. They're buying it for practically half of what you owed the bank. So my thing has always been, why doesn't the bank just work with the homeowners to stay in their home and offer them a principal rate reduction, which would, practically would slash things in half?
So okay. So what you're saying, right, like, is that when you foreclose on a home, let's say I owe $100,000 on a home, right? I foreclose on that home. If the bank gets it back, they're gonna sell it for like $50,000 or something along those lines.
Correct.
So you're saying it's like the bank would lose $50,000 anyway.
They don't lose anything. They end up writing stuff off, and they have ways to, get, don't ever think that it's a necessary loss. And if it is a loss, then that's a way to lower the taxes that they pay if they're taking a loss on that. So trust me when I tell you, at the end of the day, on their books, it will be a gain somehow or another. They know how to do that. And I'm not hating on the banks at all. We need our banks. We need our banks to give us fair and clean mortgages, but they're very savvy. They know how to work the tax system, which is okay. But my thing is just, I feel like, we need to have equity in the process. And this creates an equitable way that would allow or enable or create a lane for someone who doesn't have deep pockets of cash to go down and save their family wealth.
Because
for the same price that would have been offered to the investor. That right. Same pennies on the dollar deal, they can go down there and get.
So if that's the case, right? Why the pushback? Why, like, from Democrats? Like, why is there a pushback on something that can help? So, because New Jersey is one of the highest rates for foreclosures. I mean,
I wanted to get to that.
Top 3. New Jersey is the top 3 in the country. Making New Jersey top 3 in the country and having the highest foreclosures are Black and brown areas. Since right. COVID-19, we've also seen overwhelming and surprisingly high numbers in suburban areas too of foreclosure. So suburban communities are also losing their wealth too. So this bill is timely because it really truly helps everyone. But historically, it helps Black and brown communities.
And
go ahead,
Donna, you're saying?
No, Assemblywoman, I was going to say, you get your house. Everybody gets this major purchase. This is a dream. We got our first house. You run into some hardship. There's language in there where the mortgage company is supposed to help you. And that's what we call hardship loans and things of that sort. Mm-hmm. But usually, like insurance, you often get pushback and they say, no, we can't do it. So the homeowner becomes frustrated. And because it's a very tax, it's one of the biggest purchases you make. And to see yourself losing this big purchase, there's a whole lot of emotion behind it. So with that no first by the mortgage company, then they go out and to see if they can get help. And all along, time is building on. You're late 1 month, then now you're late 6 months. And then the investor steps in and it's like no problem at all. He gets all the yeses. That's something that's a reason why this bill is important, because people don't understand.
That's right.
When I worked in the court and worked in the area where people will come to get, to stop a sheriff's sale. It was just very frustrating seeing people, they're hurt there because they don't know exactly what to go or how to do that part of the process. And we need to help our community more because we know how to, we're just really learning, grandma and them pretty much paid for everything, but now we can't maintain what grandma purchased or mother purchased.
Right. And that's what we mean about wealth and generational wealth. And this helps save generational wealth. So, you hit the nail on the head. It also isn't just for the person who owns the home or the next of kin. We created an avenue for nonprofits. Hi, sweetheart. My babies just came back home. We created an avenue for the nonprofit organizations. If they want to participate, this is a way for them to do acquisition to create affordable homeownership opportunities. We tried to create a lane for the renters. Unfortunately, the bill was CV'd, and we had written new language that we wanted incorporated into the CV if that's what the governor was going to do, but he did not accept the renter language in the new language. So I'm going to continue to try to knock on that door because I think it's a great piece. We all know somebody who's paid their rent diligently, and unfortunately, a sheriff is knocking on their door. And they're saying, well, what's going on? I pay my rent, but the landlord wasn't paying the mortgage. This would create a lane for them to be able to use this program and buy the house that they're renting in. Then there's also, and this is for people who agree to live in the property for 7 years. It would be for, let's say it's a young couple that wants to buy a house and restore it. They can go down there and use this program as long as they agree to be a part of the fabric of the community for at least 7 years, not just, property flipping. Which again, there's nothing wrong with property flippers at all. I mean, it's a very lucrative trade that has created wealth for many, including Black and brown people. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to establish a way for us to save our wealth.
That's right.
At the time of foreclosure, and to also gain wealth, and give emphasis on owner-occupied properties and owner-occupied communities. And I just think it's a beautiful dream if we could actually own the communities that we live in.
Let me jump in here, right? Donna made the mistake of using the word emotion, right? So I'm going to raise this emotion called anger, right? At such a pivotal time in our history, when this thing called democracy, to the degree that we have one, is literally teetering on the brink. And we're trying to tell folks your age and down why it's so important for them to be engaged and to vote and all that. And something like this, that is a win for everybody involved, right? It's not folks who are on that other side that's being crazy blocking us. There's folks that we telling our community to vote for that are blocking us. I'm gonna tell you, I'm angry about that, right?
Yes,
because
I know, Baba.
Hold on, wait.
Hard, right? Not that it's not like it's like hard enough already, rumbling with the state for trying to kill us with impunity. But when we're trying to actually marshal everything that we're supposed to be marshaling in the name of stabilizing and investing in this thing called democracy, when it comes to our community, there's always an excuse for why that can't happen.
Yeah.
Phil, I want you to hear me and feel me, bro.
Yeah.
Essex in Mercer County or the principal counties full of our people going through this madness called foreclosure. And you would think this progressive leadership that claims to be so progressive would want to break the chain of foreclosure in the state. Aren't we tired in New Jersey about being either the first, second, or third in foreclosures?
Yeah.
Let's flip that. Let's flip that.
Zay, who was the mother that came to People's Organization, who came to POP, and she ended up being put out?
That was an orange. There was an orange. I
Yeah.
can't remember the
What
elder's
was
Yeah.
the
name.
other name?
She
And-
was fighting.
And
We
Larry Hamm
literally
spoke.
had
Larry
folks-
Hamm spoke about that too.
Yes.
I was trying to get him to come on with you, and he's going to be in the next segment, right?
Yeah.
Because not only has
That's
he
my friend.
protested, not only have we protested foreclosure, but he's also survived foreclosure, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is personal for a whole lot of us,
And,
right?
and,
And it's our history. It's
Yes,
Baba.
ma'am.
It's our history. So like this to me was the biggest bill of my entire career. And yes, I've done a lot of great legislation for the people, and I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to put pen to paper to rewrite systemic issues that have been in existence for far too long. Those issues where the system is just completely broken, and we need to write in fairness and equity. To me, this was the biggest one, the most prolific one, because again, it was about our history.
At the right time.
It was about our history. It was about all of the, it was all about all of the redlining and all of the keeping us from becoming homeowners. And then we'll become homeowners. Maybe the loan was predatory or whatever it was, losing your house. It's just daunting. So it was a very emotionally charged, but stooped in righteousness, very well thought out. And I was hoping that the outcome would be different. I've seen bills that need work, and they sign them all the time. They say they'll do a cleanup bill. They'll sign them all, and by the time that bill even is enacted, they'll already have the cleanup bill passed. I know what I was asking for was not outside of my, hey, sweetheart, was not outside of my the wheelhouse of what happens in state government. But I appreciate everybody's advocacy and support.
But Assemblywoman, housing is something that's near and dear to you, and you're very passionate about housing and building wealth with housing in our community. We saw had your other bill passed at the beginning of COVID, perhaps Jersey would be in a different place. I think when you putting plans together to protect our community and to build wealth in our community, and I think that we have to. I don't know what we can do, because I think people just don't really understand the importance, because you were fought hard on the other bill that had that bill passed. You would have been the first in the country. New Jersey would have been the first in the country to pass legislation like that. That bill said around now you're coming up against opposition here, where it just, as I just said, it just seems like common sense. And if you walk the streets, and we see how coming out of COVID, have we seen the numbers of now that the courts are back open and people are landlords, the cases have begun going before the judge. Have we seen what the numbers look like, or are the numbers still coming in?
Sure. We had a press conference with the urban mayors where each urban mayor read how many homes in their current municipality were go give Gigi a hug and a kiss.
Can I go to Gigi's house tomorrow?
Just 1 second. Can I have 3 minutes?
Can I come to Gigi's
No,
house
I can't have
tomorrow?
3 minutes. Give me 1 second, okay? Go with baby. Make sure he doesn't, because take that out of his hand. So listen, guys, I literally have only a few more minutes, right? My babies just came home and it's about to get live. But in Newark, at the time of the numbers being read, it was 77 homes in Newark that were up to be sold in that month or the time frame. And that doesn't indicate how many have happened all this year. So yeah, that's what's what's going on. Bottom line is this: we know it's our urban areas that are bleeding wealth. In fact, we're not bleeding wealth, we're hemorrhaging wealth. It's not over, just like the great song, the gospel song, it ain't over until God says it's over.
Well,
and we're gonna continue to push. We're gonna take a look at this conditional veto language that the governor sent, and we are going to take a look and try to infuse in another bill.
Yeah.
The
What-
stuff
what
with the
is-
governor.
I'm
I'm sorry, the
ready-
stuff with the renter language.
I'm
What
ready
is
to
the
say
conditional
one
veto?
song.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Okay. So yeah, this has been
You
real
gonna ask the
interesting,
question?
right? Like even in terms of the point about like
I think
what is the conditional
if
veto?
she could tell us though, Jonathan, what were some of the issues
Yeah.
with the governor signing the bill?
Right. But let's give her a few minutes. She definitely is the hardest working legislator, the person who does like legislates a bunch, has
Everything you're supposed
family,
to do.
holds it all together. I think the last time we spoke, I said she should write a book about that's managing between such a high level legislature and a dedicated family person all at the same time. I think we could all learn.
Well, God is good.
Well,
God is sure
Assemblywoman,
good. But I know my time is up. I know we were ended at 7:30. I appreciate you guys so much.
Just tell us real quick what hip hop song is inspiring you, and then let us know what you need us to do. Well, who do you need us to call, and what hip hop song is inspiring you these days?
What hip hop song is inspiring me these days? Nas is always and Pac is always my favorite. So right now what I need to do is go through this language, and when I will definitely, and you all know, I will definitely keep you posted.
Well, thank you.
We're not gonna stop this. We're not gonna stop doing
No giving
what
up.
we're
Giving
doing.
up is not on the table. That's right.
No. We're gonna take a look at the
That's right.
CV language, and if we send that bill back to the governor, it's also going to be with another bill that we need to that will include the renters, because that was a very, very good piece of that bill.
Well, let
And
us
you
know
did everything you were supposed to do to get it done.
Well,
Thank you, Baba.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right. Love to the children. We would salute you. We got your back. Right.
I think just on we need to just start preparing now and just have our constituents to call the governor and ask them why. Ask them why.
I think the thing is though, like she said though, Donna, I think we need to look at what did the governor, because I mean we don't even know what we're defending against. So we'd like to see what was the issues that the governor had, like she said.
Right.
We need to see that too. What is the veto language? What did he have an issue with?
What did
I mean, clearly he know what the issues are in the state of New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, clearly he know that if New Jersey is the third highest foreclosure state in New Jersey, and what she was talking about is exactly what happened in Hudson County, particularly in Greenville and Jersey City.
Right.
I mean, you had the Jewish community from Brooklyn come in and buy all of those foreclosed homes from those black folks, right? And they bought them, just like she said, for pennies on the dollar, because they had cash, right? So they were putting signs underneath people's doors whose houses were in foreclosure, and they were telling folks, we can buy your house, and so folks, because they wanted to get some money, right, and just not walk away without nothing, they were willing to sell their homes. And then, for the Jewish community, I mean, they basically just went down to the tax office and just got an entire list, and then just went through the blocks.
Yeah.
I just put in the chat
now. If you go over there now, Zaid and Donna, you already know this. You think you in Brooklyn?
Yeah.
I just put in the chat the one article that was lifted up on the governor's conditional veto, and hope somebody could put that up on the screen so folks can see that. But it's I call it nuanced nonsense, right? Because I mean, if ever there was a time to do something like this is it. There was ever a time we could make not just a difference on the issue, but a difference in the time, right? I mean, the background that we're talking about is real. It's just those folks, coming from Brooklyn and coming in the Jersey City and scooping stuff up. This is also, this is another symptom of this huge concentration of wealth in a small number of people's hands, right? not in the name of democracy, but in the name of privilege, right? In the name of privilege. And some folks are willing to go the route of playing the music and doing the dance with fascism in the name of privilege over democracy, right? So if we need Democrats to finally do something with some courage and to do it, at the proper time, this is the time to do it. This is the time to do it.
That's right.
And Phil missed it on both of those counts. All due respect, because I know y'all are diehard Democrats, and I don't want to be too hard on you.
But Zaid, the problem is that I mean, folks, and I'm not saying because you can work with Phil Murphy on certain issues, but if things are right, somebody's got to be able to go and say, hey, man, how does the Black community say you be elected, right? And then you turn around and not put forth this kind of bill that's going to help generational wealth in our community. How do you do that? I mean, I understand, and that might be because he got a financial background, right?
Right.
And
that's
going to he's comfortable
in that
dealing with the privilege as opposed to those who are seeking to stabilize their own communities. And the thing about it is it's even backwards. It's not just backwards in terms of the moment and backwards as a matter of principle. It's backwards in the long run in terms of them having their own position. He won by the skin of his teeth.
Yeah.
Because of Essex and Hudson County looking like us, right? And we're talking it, and we can't get that give back. Are you serious?
But
we probably should get Frederica. Frederica has been on the ground.
She's been on my mind. I'm glad you mentioned the name.
Yeah,
love her to death, and tried to organize folks around this question. Absolutely.
Yes, she has been on the ground with this issue for over 4 or 5 years now. So we probably need to reach out to Frederica and call her and just see, and get some, get her feelings on this.
But you know what, Zaid, I mean, I think that the Assemblywoman should organize the community speak out. You know what I mean?
She did so.
I know
she's done everything you're supposed to do from her vantage point. That has to come from the community side now, and she would work with us. She would work with us, but that has to come from the community side.
Yeah, no,
that's the phone. We got it, and that's the people making the phone calls, like pass that bill, and that's what I was saying. We have to get in the habit of picking up the phone and demanding what we want. If we're sitting in houses where we know that we need some assistance on and we're not getting any response from when we're calling our mortgage company or the nonprofits that have the money, we need to say that and call. We have to we have to begin to advocate in our community for ourselves as well, because if the I can remember Assemblywoman something on the reparations bill. She said, I've done everything. The legislation is before the governor, but now I need you to tell the governor to put the bill up for a vote. Put it up for a vote.
That's right. And we need to tell them other jokers, the Coughlins and all them other people, right? That, you need to come this way too.
Yeah, I think part of it is, man, is that we're not really taking the fight to the governor, right?
That's it.
You got to take the fight to him, and I think that from that standpoint, and we got to remind him. I mean, even the Bible tells us to remind God, right? So we need to remind this governor, well, you wouldn't be governor if it were not for very Black people. Whom the Assemblywoman is trying to help. I mean, this bill directly helps those people, and those are the very people that saved your political career. And the whole reason why now you could sit there and contemplate running for president now.
How about that?
I mean,
all on the backs of the Black and brown community.
And Zaid, let me give you a visual of what it should be like. If you can remember the movie Lean on Me.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can remember the woman who every time the mayor heard that she was on the phone or coming to the office, he would just get so, what now? Like he knew that this woman, and she, remember she wanted, what was the principal's name in Lead on Me?
Joe Wright, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Joe,
Mhm.
Big Joe. But remember, she didn't like him and she wanted him removed. But that woman was very, she was a advocate for what she wanted. But she listen. I voted for you.
Organized
You
and
gonna
she was
do this. You
persistent.
gonna do that. We have to stay vigilant.
Right.
It's not something you do on that November, that first Tuesday in November, and then you just sit back and watch until the
Right.
next 4 years. That's not how it
Right.
works.
But that's my point, Donna. We somebody's got to take the fight to the governor, right? I mean, that's just like the the bill around policing in New Jersey, right?
That's right.
You got to take that
Exactly
fight
right.
to him,
Exactly right.
And I'm saying we can't, I mean, black folk, we good for this, right? We good for helping them first and then expecting them to help us second. That's never going to work.
That's right.
And we need to learn how to negotiate.
And they're used to that.
Yeah, they're like, yo, these people, they're gonna vote for me, and then when they come and ask me for something, I'm just gonna simply act like the guy I am. No, come on, man, right? We need to negotiate up front. We need to have some folks who can go in there and lay something out and say, hey, man, we're gonna give you our support. Listen, you about to lose right now, but you want us to help you. So when we help you, here's what we need. Are you down with that? Sign this, we good, right? Not that you go and help them win, and then when push come to shove, you get a bill from the Assemblywoman that's good for those very black and brown people that helped you, and now all of a sudden you veto it. Like what?
If I were governor of New Jersey, and of course I ain't gonna be a governor of nothing, right?
Okay.
But if I were governor of New Jersey, right, and I had an opportunity to take my state out of the depth of something as hurtful, harmful, traumatic, and embarrassing as being a leader in something as destructive as foreclosure, I would do it. There wouldn't be any excuses. There wouldn't be any conditions.
But I think, do you
lift my state up?
But
right?
we also got to remember
where it's at the bottom, where it can be somewhere else. Why would I not do it?
Well, also let us not forget what Mayor Baraka said last month, that there are some things that are done by design, that they allow our communities to be depressed to the point where the value is so low, and then they come in and buy up our community, and then our community
and mark up its value for themselves.
There you go. Yes. So some things are done by design. And if we want to claim and maintain, we have to collectively do the work. And one person can't do it by themselves. We have to do it block by block, ward by ward, in each city, and city by city.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I just think that we've got to get better at negotiating politically, right? Everybody know that this governor owed black people, just like everybody know the president of the United States owed black people, right? But there's no way in hell we can continue. Those of us who consider ourselves to be politically aware of what's going on with these politicians, right? That don't go in and negotiate from an even playing field, right? Because we always at the whim of these people doing the right thing for us down the road. And the question is that I get it, right? We most certainly wouldn't have had a better hand being able to deal with Donald Trump. That's absolutely true. But I think you've got to find people that we can say, look, man, because y'all know he would not have won had not it been for the congressman down in South Carolina.
That's right.
But the congressman in South Carolina has got to be able to say, yo, since I got this guy's ear, I want to be able to go to him and say, look, man, we got to get something done, and we got to get this done, and that talk to black, and that has to be the same way in New Jersey, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
You gotta have Mayor Baraka, right, who say, look, man, we've got to, we didn't get this bill passed, we didn't get this policing bill passed. Look, and the mayor was out there with us when we were in front of, down there in Trenton, right?
Mhm.
He came down and spoke about it in the policing bill. But at the end of the day, man, these people are gonna be who they are. They're gonna be who they are, and we gotta be who we
They
are.
have no problem being that at our expense.
Right.
As long
And
as we
think
allow
about what the mayor just said, Zayed. He said even though him and Senator Rice were on opposite ends, right? What they recognized was that the enemy wasn't going to play them against one another,
right.
right? Because he knew at the end of the day,
that's right.
Right. He knew at the end of the day he was going to be with Senator Rice, right? Because Senator Rice said, "That's my man. You trying to use against me."
That's right.
And that's the difference about when you talk about the Assemblywoman, right? We can say we agree with the governor or whatever, but at the end of the day, the Assemblywoman is our sister.
That's right.
That's our sister.
That's right. And she put that forward for our community.
That's right. And so yeah, we supported you, and yeah, we voted for you. But you know what, Governor? At the end of the day, that's our sister.
Mm-hmm.
And we're siding with our sister. And what we're saying is we want her bill signed.
I know we civically, we probably, I think we just have to do more of getting our community in the habit of calling and asking. Have a question a week, or to make a phone call down to Trenton. This week we're going to call and be about this. We have to start doing this and stay in the practice of doing it, because we're so reactive to things, and by the time we get on the ball and start making these calls, we're really way behind, behind the 8 ball. So we have to start, this needs to be a regular exercise in terms of that. When you have that thing list of important numbers on your refrigerator, in terms of activism, the governor's numbers, your mayor's numbers, your senator's numbers should be a part of those numbers.
That's right.
I mean, Donna, you're absolutely right. But remember, what we need is a political education, right?
Yes.
Remember, wasn't that? I mean, that's what Conrad was saying last week. Remember when he talked about all of the people that are registered to vote in New York, and he talked about how many people came out and actually voted, and how many votes this guy actually won by, right? It's a lack of a political education. I mean, you think about how long we've been doing this show. We've been doing this show 12 years, right? And there's no other show in our city on a regular basis try to educate our people not only about what's going on culturally, but more importantly, what's going on politically.
That's right.
Right? Why? Because we understand that politics is at the root of your very life. Right? It's at the root of your very life. And you don't get at the end of the day, you don't get the school chancellor that you get without politics. You don't get that.
And the word I was getting ready to say Chairman Hamm, but
help of politics, right? All of that is important, and we need a political education, right? And we've got to begin to educate young people to understand the importance of voting, right? We just got to. And then we've got to understand
voting in all of its dimensions, not just every 4 years and going back to sleep.
Yeah, but on the other end of that, like the man said, we also got to understand the level of struggle with each other, right?
Right.
Just because you and I disagree, right? That doesn't mean that you and I have to be enemies of one another based on what we disagree on. But we also have to find a common ground based on what we agree on to move our people forward.
That's right. To move our agenda forward.
That's what unity and struggle means.
United, it's got to be about an agenda. Struggle. Right.
And we look at People Organization for Progress, that every pre-COVID and even while COVID was going on, every week, meet faithfully. You talk, you have an agenda, you talk about it. What are we going to do collectively? And we take as a group, we vote on things and we take our marching orders and we move forward. We come back next Thursday and we do it again. And we need to do that with POP and with other organizations. We have to do it. It works.
The man said that tonight, Donna. He said that, but we need a political education. We got to educate people because we don't have the level of mass voter participation that we really need. Right? We need that, and I think that is really because in my mind, right? In my mind, I just don't think that we have enough information on the value of voting. Because you talk to the average young brother or sister, like the brother I was talking to, who's the journalist out in California for Billboard, and from their perspective, what is that going to do for me? How's that going to help me?
Yeah, and Conrad even said while he was out there talking, he's like, "Nah, I don't get him." And the response, "I don't get down with voting. That ain't for me."
Yeah.
And and that's what we have to begin to dissect. And I know our next guest is here, but when somebody
you were segueing into it.
that I'm not into voting, that ain't about me. We need to really stand there and talk to that person and help them and try to understand what they're saying, and then help them understand why voting is what they're into and what they need to be into. But our guests are here.
Yes, and we have Chairman Hamm, we have Naima Dorsey, and we have Abdul Malik Muhammad and Zaid. You could introduce this next very serious segment. Always happy and always an honor to see you, Chairman Hamm. Always glad to have you on the show. We were talking in the last segment about you just because, right? We were talking just a few seconds ago about you because of all the things that you're involved in over the years and even now. So,
I won't act up tonight.
Okay. Yeah, you missed it last week. You was actually
act out.
I won't act up tonight. I took my medicine, so I'm.
All right.
You didn't run 24 laps before you got on tonight. That's what it was.
Oh yeah, I did my 20. I just did my 24 about an hour ago.
So he is subject too.
Okay.
Yeah, that calms me down too.
Fair enough. All right, Zaid.
Well, this is an important segment, and we're also awaiting the presence of Attorney Robert Tarver, because what we're going to uplift and unpack is an important new development coming from the people's side on the case, the tragic case of Carl Dorsey. We're glad not just to have Chairman Hamm back, but we're glad to also see Carl's sister Naima come back, and Brother Malik, good to have you back, right? And we're trying to do something now to push this thing to make it move, because it hasn't moved. And so we're looking forward to having Attorney Robert Tarver come on and explain why that's important. Chairman Hamm, why don't you introduce our family, right, and lay out the importance of just why that is in terms of our from the community / our political activist vantage point, to set that up before he comes on.
Right. Well, we have as the guest tonight, Brother Abdul Malik Muhammad, who is the stepdad of Carl Dorsey, and I believe the father of Naima and Medina. Medina's not here, but I see Naima. And by the way, Naima, you were very good on the Democracy Now! Show. You were very good. And so I'm just going to turn it over to Brother Abdul and let him talk about Carl, what happened to Carl, and I guess Naima will chime in. I'm just going to sit back and listen.
And before Abdul starts talking, full disclosure, Abdul, those are my cousins. So just want everybody to know.
Okay.
One out of 1 out of 6 people in Essex County, your cousin, Donald. You got a bunch of cousins.
Abdul, would you say that would be true? Because
But go ahead. Let's get into it. Let's get into it here. We lost Carl. Yeah, and it's good to have y'all back too. And I remember the first time we brought y'all on, it was a very heavy, very engaging discussion. And we've got some new things to talk about. So Dad, tell us what's happening. You're muted. You're muted, Billy. There you go.
I always try to make clarity on my position in this. I'm Medina's biological father, and I'm Naima's stepfather as well as Carl's stepfather.
Okay.
Carl has been in my life since he was 3 years old. Naima was 2, and Medina wasn't even born. So they later on in life, Medina was born, Carl and Naima was staying with their father, et cetera, et cetera. But they've always been in my life. Naima calls me dad. She's been my daughter since I met her at 2 years old, as a stepdaughter. But, so I'm going to play back that night when that situation happened. Naima called me maybe 1:30, 2 o'clock, whatever time it was in the morning, a little bit after midnight. And she's going crazy. I'm thinking, when I see the name, I'm thinking she calling to say Happy New Year's. And she calls, she's going crazy. Dad. I'm like, what's wrong, Naima? What's wrong? She said, Dad, they killed my brother. I'm like, what are you, what happened? I'm thinking somebody in the streets, something happened in the streets. And, he got into something and somebody, hurt him. But she said, no, the North police killed my brother. And I'm like, wow. Then she had explained to what little she knew at the time. So I had to, start making moves, find out where Medina was, et cetera, et cetera. But this was like, imagine how devastating that is. The first thing of the new year, 2021, you hear that your brother's killed. For me, that my stepson was killed. Everybody went out that night. I'm sure Officer Simpkins, kissed his family, went out that night, to work. Other people went out that night to enjoy the New Year's. Carl went out that night, kissed his kids, kissed his family, went out that night. But he didn't come home. He got killed. He didn't break no laws. He ain't do nothing that nobody else did. Ross Baraka, I'm sure your kids and you went out that night. Y'all all came home. But Carl didn't. He got killed by another cop. And this is what we need to be. We need to have that explained to us why everybody else came home New Year's Eve that night, but Carl didn't. He ain't break no laws. He ain't have no gun. Why didn't he come home to his family New Year's 2021? And we still haven't got the appropriate answers. We're not going to stop until we do.
Right. And Attorney Hart is trying to get on. He's having there he is. Okay. There he is. Okay. All right. He's having some issues getting on with the link. Glad to have you, Attorney Tarver. We were just Brother Abdul Malik was just laying out, what happened on January 1st.
Yes.
Right. And it was a perfect segue for you to come in and talk about what just happened last week in terms of you filing suit for the family to help move the case. Welcome to All Politics Are Local, and why don't you begin to set that up for us?
Thank you. Sure. As you know, and as you're aware, has been discussed, this thing happened in the early morning hours of January 1st. And you have to understand the context of this thing happening. New Year's Day, the first minutes of the new year, individuals are out on the street. These police officers get a call concerning gunfire. And the first thing they do is they come over, but they come over unmarked, in an unmarked car, and plain clothes, and jumping out of the car, causing alarm with no one knowing what these officers are there to do. And so video is very clear that this officer gets out of his car. Carl runs across the street, runs into the officer, clearly accidentally, and as he's backing away, he is shot. The reason why it's important for us to understand what happens in the video is that there is no justification for him to be shot at that point. He doesn't pose a threat to the officer. He's moving away from the officer. And so, as according to both the law and policy, safety, there is no reason why this officer should have to use what is called deadly force. You use deadly force, or you're allowed to use deadly force in the state of New Jersey and under federal law when your own life is threatened. But two things we know: there was no weapon on Carl Dorsey. He did not point or threaten a weapon, nor did he have anything in his possession that could be construed or thought of as a weapon. And so what we really have here is an out and out execution with no justification. And
Wow.
we're concerned because we've not had anyone address it at this point.
So let's go even, and we can even go further than that, because that has another context, right? This comes off of the city of Newark going through a full year with its police department of not having fired a single shot in terms of how it's engaging in this community. And that was a big deal. But when this finally does happen, right, it happens in every way that is the wrong way. And come to find out that the officer involved has got a history. And so in my modest mind, and I want everybody to jump on this thing here, for all of the pluses that have been working with this Newark police reform effort, we've had some other problems in some spaces where there has not been accountability. And this is the tragic face of how that plays out when there's not accountability, because this man had a history, right? The ACL, while we were in the streets in the 2000s and whatnot, turning it up on the police as they were getting worse in this town, it was the ACLU who documented that and put a petition to the federal government, to the Department of Justice, documenting what we were talking about. And in that petition is none other than the name of Rod Simpkins. Rod Simpkins doing what he did, doing things like that ultimately now resulted in this young man's death. So that's some bigger context that I want us to appreciate, because this reform piece is got some holes that needs to be addressed, and this is a dramatic example of where those holes need to be addressed. Brother Chairman, you need to jump in, and Naima, we want to hear you talk about who they took from us, who Carl was, why Carl's life mattered, right? And why we can't sit pat and let this go down the way it's going down.
Absolutely.
Naima, go ahead. I'll come in after you. You muted. Unmute, Naima. Unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to read what I have to say, because when I get nervous, I forget what I'm going to say, okay?
That's all right. That's all right.
First of all, good evening to everybody.
Good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
All right, I'm here to discuss and talk about my deceased brother, Carl Dorsey. My brother was a well-loved, respected man. My brother was a father, grandson, godfather, best friend, etc. I called my brother on his birthday, which was December 24th, but his phone was turned off. But a few days later, I was not expecting, wait a minute, to get the most disturbing news of my life. That would change my life forever. I was just waking up to get ready for work when my grandmother called me asking where was I at, who was with me. Then that's when everything in slow motion as the words, your brother was shot and killed. This individual slash cop, I would never say his name because he doesn't deserve to say his name out loud, who took our brother away from us, had no right to play executioner that night. He murdered my brother. I just want to know what was on his mind that night as he walked over out of it and got out of his van, and the moments leading to when he pulled that trigger and shot my brother. Once again, Carl Dorsey, a name he didn't even know the night he took my brother. Most importantly, my brother was a father and to my nieces and nephews. Carl might not have meant anything to that man, but he meant a lot to us. That's all I got to say for now.
I got to chime in because this is what bothers me most.
Absolutely.
My
Absolutely.
daughter, when I have to see my daughters, both go towards the next, and this is why we need justice. You know, we say the name Carl Dorsey, Carl Dorsey, but he was a real person. He meant a lot to these two young ladies and his kid. That's who I'm fighting for. You know, I'm Malik Muhammad. I'm the dad that's going, carry the most weight, and I'm going to make sure that justice is served for Naima, Medina, his children, etc. I can't sleep some nights just dealing with this, man, knowing how bad they feel. It's just not. We can't accept it. I mean, we can't. You don't get behind this, then you ain't the right type of person.
We just had before y'all came on, we had a bright, brave young legislator named Assemblywoman Britnee Timberlake come on. It was Britnee Timberlake, who was just a fresh person in the New Jersey Assembly, who gave us and fought for the New Jersey Independent Prosecutors Bill, right? And this bill would put in the hands of the Attorney General, right, any person being dying in police police custody or at the hands of the police on police involved shooting, and that was to be a reform to deal with how the county prosecutor order miserably failed in an ongoing institutional way to not meaningfully investigate and indict and challenge police officers when they go afoul in these kind of settings. Even with this new situation, we have not gotten movement as we should have from the Attorney General's office, and that's why Attorney Tarver and Demon, y'all need to come back in and talk about why that's important.
Well, I'll tell you why it's really important. I try to put it into context before. January the 6th of 2021, just 5 days after Carl was killed, we had the insurrection in Washington, D.C. Since that time, up until now, we've had numerous hearings, we've had prosecutions, we've had more than 800 people charged on the federal level, and yet we have this particular case where we have a video, one person, and the Attorney General's office has not addressed it. The bottom line is simply this. They owe a duty of respect to the family, but they owe a duty of justice. And justice is not just the idea that you will prosecute, but it's the idea that you will keep people informed and that you will be transparent about the process. And they haven't been transparent about the process. That's why we brought this lawsuit. And as you watch Naima and the pain that she's in, you recognize that nothing we do here, this lawsuit, none of those things will be able to bring Carl back. But in some way, this is the only way that we have to bring any form of justice to his family. And so what we're doing is, by this lawsuit, we are suing for violations of the federal statutes, which say that when an officer under color of law acts in an improper fashion, uses excessive force, then he can be liable. And so we're suing under that statute, Section 42, Section 1983 of the United States Code. But we're not stopping there. And you pointed out a really important point, which is that the city of Newark is under a consent decree. From 2014, they have agreed with the federal government that they've acted in a fashion that is not up to police standards, that they've been doing wrong, that they've been acting improperly. And so the law allows us to use that particular situation to say that if there's a pattern and practice of malfeasance, of misbehavior, of improper conduct on the part of the police department and on the part of the city to rein the police department in, then the city itself can be liable, not just that individual officer.
Team, jump in. Is he there?
The other thing I would add, Attorney Tarver, is that in the independent prosecutor law now, it's a law. It was a bill. It's a law. It was signed into law by the governor. There are benchmarks, and the Attorney General is supposed to report on the progress of the investigation. And we are well beyond very well beyond. It's been 20 months, almost 2 years. January 1st will be 2 years since Carl was murdered. And the Attorney General's office has not said anything. So it's in violation of its own law. And I will say it again. I said it before. I call on the Attorney General for New Jersey, Matt Plankin, to meet with the family, Brother Abdul Malik and Naima and Medina and anybody else, and yourself, Attorney Tarver, to report on the progress, to report on what has been done regarding this case. In addition to that, and I'm glad you raised the federal dimension of this, attorney, I'm calling on the United States Attorney for New Jersey, who I think his name is Peter Selinger. He's the Biden appointee now for U.S. Attorney for New Jersey. I call upon him to meet with the family and with their attorney, yourself, Attorney Tarver, and to look at this case and determine and to officially launch a civil rights investigation.
Yes.
Into the death of into the murder of Carl Dorsey. I call on the city of Newark, and they know this, to fire Officer Detective Simpkins with his record and with this murder. Why is he still on the payroll? I mean, he should be fired or at least suspended. I don't even think he's suspended. I actually believe he's still on active duty. I don't know if it's desk duty or street duty, but he should be fired. And lastly, I'm glad, Zaid, you mentioned Assemblywoman Timberlake. The New Jersey Assembly seat, and I'm glad, Attorney Tarver, you talked about Washington, D.C. and what's going on in Washington. And we know a lot of what is going on and not going on is because right now the Senate is split 50-50 between Democrats and Republicans. And then you got a couple of Democrats who are Republicans in Democrats' clothing. They are obstructionists. They failed to pass the George Floyd Police Accountability Act. Yeah. So I understand DC. What I don't understand is New Jersey. New Jersey, the Democrats have what's called unitary control. They have a clear majority in the General Assembly. They have a majority in the state Senate, and the sitting governor is a Democrat. And yet, at least 6 major police reform bills have been put up in the Assembly, one of which we're very concerned about, and that's the Police Review Board with Subpoena Power bill. And these bills are not moving. And I want to go back to something that Ed said earlier. You know, Ed was like calling for accountability, calling for negotiation, like, Governor, what's up? In the last gubernatorial election,
make it plain,
which was 2021, Phil Murphy only won by 50,000 votes. The gubernatorial election was almost a replay of the presidential election. In a state where there are more registered Democrats than registered Republicans, how you say his name, Donna? Ciccarelli?
Chiarelli.
Chittarelli had over 1 million votes, and Murphy had over 1 million votes. And Murphy was able to win a second term. He's the first Democratic governor to win a second term in 35 years because he had a 50,000 vote margin. And I would dare say that
where did those votes come from?
Came out of the Black community. And I have to ask the question, you know, why is it the most faithful constituency of the Democratic Party can't get bills passed that would be in their interest? You had Assemblywoman Timberlake on. the governor's CV that is conditionally vetoed, her community wealth preservation program, which would help people whose homes are in foreclosure. We got 6 bills dealing with police brutality. The police review board with subpoena power bill was passed out of committee, was on the docket for a vote in the General Assembly, and the Speaker of the Assembly refused to put the bill up for a vote. So is it votes from the Fraternal Order of Police and the Police Benevolent Association that pushed Murphy over the victory line? I dare say not. The police are probably only 0.001% of the electorate. It was the Black community. And in this particular issue, the greatest antidote to police brutality is community control of the police. You know, the irony is that since the murder of George Floyd, the execution of George Floyd, do you know that the number of police brutality cases in the United States has actually risen?
Gone up. That's right.
It was roughly 1,000 in 2021. I mean, in 2020, it was roughly 1,000, and in 2021, it exceeded 1,100, and it's on track to exceed 1,100 this year. So the police haven't got the message. The media somehow gives the impression that simply because we had one conviction in one police brutality case, that somehow police brutality and racial profiling are no longer a problem. We see in the Carl Dorsey case, it is a deadly problem. And, you know, the Democrats in the Assembly, and it's not, you know, I think the Black caucus in the Assembly was united on the police brutality bill, but it's the rest of the Democrats that obviously are more prone to listen to the FOP and the PBA and the Police Supervisors Association than they are to listen to their own constituents. So on the Assembly side, I'm calling on the Assembly in the name of Carl. In fact, I'm going to tell them maybe they need to, just like we had the George Floyd Accountability and Policing Act in the Congress, maybe we need to have the Carl Dorsey police brutality bill, police review board bill in the New Jersey state legislature.
We could even go further, because one of the sad things about this is that there have been other police killings in New Jersey that also need to be addressed by this Attorney General. The question of the case of Hassani Bass in Asbury Park, for example, that happened even before we lost Carl, right? And there's several others. Maurice Gordon, which was right before George Floyd, right? So we, you know, the Attorney General has done nothing on any of those cases. Any of those cases, we've heard nothing from the Attorney General on how those cases are moving, and that's just foul. So we're going to do something about that. What's happening on the 19th of September?
Well, on the 19th, and I'm glad Brother Abdul Malik and Naima are on. They probably know this already because Medina probably told them. But the People's Organization for Progress, we're going to resume our weekly, what we call Justice Monday protests in front of the federal building. On Monday, September 19th, we're going to be out there at 4:30 p.m. And the federal building is at 970 Broad Street in Newark. That's the corner of Broad and Walnut Street, 1 block down from City Hall. So we're trying to mobilize people, and we're going to highlight.
Hold on. I want you to take a step back, because you said we're going to resume Justice Monday. For the benefit of those listening who are not familiar with what we've done with Justice Monday, you need to let folks know just what Justice Monday is, why that was important, how that has been working, and why it's important to relaunch it.
Right. Right. Justice Monday was a weekly protest that occurred on Monday that People's Organization for Progress had been doing for 5 years. I mean, we ended toward the end of last year because the second wave of COVID was coming, and we didn't want to, we didn't want people to get sick. So we postponed Justice Mondays for about 6 months, and we're resuming it. We're going to start it back this Monday, and this Monday's Justice Monday protest is going to be dedicated to the Carl Dorsey case, but we're also going to talk about other police brutality victims. We started Justice Monday because of the murder of Jerome Reed. Jerome Reed was shot with his hands up in Bridgeton, New Jersey, which is down in Gloucester County. He was shot and killed, and his mother and father came to us and they worked with us. His mother just passed away. Was it this year or last year? I think it was this year, wasn't it? This year, she passed away. But we started, there were 3 cases. There was Abdul Kamal, who was killed by the Irvington police. It was Jerome Reed, who was killed by the Bridgeton police. And yesterday was the anniversary of the murder of Kashad Ashford, who also, Brother Abdul, was killed by Newark. No, he wasn't. He was killed by Lyndhurst police. But he lived in Newark, but he was killed by Lyndhurst police. So that's how we started Justice Mondays, and we've continued and used it as a platform to talk about police brutality every Monday out there on Broad Street. So I hope, Brother Abdul and Sister Naima, y'all be able to come out Monday evening, 4:30, 5 o'clock in front of the federal building.
Abdul and Naima, when you call and you, or maybe at this point, Mr. Tarver makes a call on your behalf, are you just getting no response? Are they saying we'll get back to you? And then the next question is, how are Carl's babies doing? And how are how you doing?
You muted, Malik.
Unmute, Abdul. Unmute. You muted, brother. We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
His
What
lips
happened?
He's having trouble unmuting.
Jonathan, unmute Malik. Jonathan, unmute Abdul.
All right, can you hear me?
There
Yes.
you
We
go.
got
All right, I got it now. All right. I'll let Naima, Medina's not here tonight. Naima can address in terms of the children because they deal with them. They deal with them more than me. But in terms of us getting any kind of response from anywhere with the Attorney General, we haven't gotten any. So as far as the children, Naima and Medina, they kind of talk to them. I know Medina told me one of Carl's sons is graduating high school coming up, and that's like one of the things I'm talking about is that he's graduating high school. His father's not there for one to walk him down, not to buy him some shoes, buy him a suit, things of this nature. This is what people forget, with children.
right.
Like children need every day. They're gonna need for the rest of their life. And this officer took Carl away from them. So it's things like that no matter what, we're never gonna be able to make up from what Carl could have did for his children. But we're gonna do as best we can to make sure that we come close to it.
And Malik, people may not have heard because I remember listening to you talk earlier about the type of father, how he was really hands-on.
Absolutely.
So tell and I don't want people to forget what type of man Carl was. Like you said, he went out that night, and just like everybody else that went out, they were expected to return home that night. Tell us a little bit about Carl, and like if you was in the room with him. What type of, man was he? Talk.
He was a funny man.
There you go. Yeah.
He was a funny man. You know, if you came in the room and you was upset, call, put a smile on your face, here, crack on the sneakers that you wore. You know, he used to call, oh my God, these white sneakers. He used to call them ibuprofen. Like he'd just crack jokes off of any and everything. Like he was a jokester amongst our whole family members. Like he was a good brother, very good brother. And as far as his children, they're good as far as my understanding. I keep in contact with my oldest nephew. He's doing good. Still hurts him to this day. It's hard for him to talk about it. Hard for him to go to any of the events because it's still, still fresh. That was his father. This man never, not once, reached in contact with my grandmother, with us. He never tried to call us and say, at least I'm sorry, because I'm pretty sure he doesn't think he's freaking sorry for what he's done. Taking somebody's loved one away from them without probable cause, but he did, and he chose to do it that night.
And have y'all had the opportunity to meet with the Office of Violence Prevention?
No, ma'am.
Now let me tell you something. This is what's so crazy. We've met with nobody. It's one lady that called, and I'm not giving her props because she called 2 or 3 days after it happened. She was minister somebody from Ross Baraka's office. And
Right.
Don, I think you got her to call me or something because it kind of intertwined with the
It's
time.
probably Roundtree.
Yeah, it was Pastor Roundtree, yeah.
Probably so. But listen, that was 2 days after it happened. And 2 years later, I haven't heard nothing else from her. Or no one else from the city of Newark or any of those other places. So this is what I'm talking about. There's been a straight kind of sweeping under the rug situation had we allow it to happen. But we're not going to allow it to happen.
Well, Malik, Naeem, I am text you the Office of Violence Prevention because that's generally for the children and resources because, like you said, it's fresh and losing. And for Carl, how he was very active in their life, it's something you can't replace. So I'm going to send you that number because there are a lot of resources that they have, and just give them a call Monday on Monday, Naima, just to
Absolutely.
see, because
But no, wait. Why would we need to call them? That this is what I'm talking about.
No, because this is a resource for people who lost loved ones. So this is for the family. This is not a it is for you to reach out to.
What is it, like a bereavement type of
Yes, it's like for bereavement, and then they offer it could be college scholarships.
Okay.
All right, so it's the county, right, Donna? It's the county.
Yes, it's the county.
Okay.
And Malik.
Yeah.
And it was founded by Ben Jones too, Malik.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you put a smile on his face now. He was about to explode.
He was the old man of ours, but that don't mean a whole lot. But
I mean, it says somebody in our community founded this based on something that happened in our community, and he realized that there were a lot of services people need that we don't realize that when they lose a loved one. So it's you don't realize what people need until they need it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's cool. Yeah.
So why don't we, as we wind down, Damon, why don't you restate what's going to happen on Monday, and some other things that we can possibly do moving forward, time, place, etc. Right, and then we'll begin to wrap up. You're muted, Damon.
See, I wasn't the only one, right?
Me neither.
I do it all the time.
Yeah, once again, Monday, September 19th, 4:30 p.m., we're going to be in front of the Federal Building, 970 Broad Street in Newark, New Jersey. And we want everybody to come out, everybody that wants justice for Carl and want justice for the other victims of police brutality. We want people to come out. And we're going to have everybody speak. We're going to probably have other victims of police brutality there. I was with the Rodwell Spivey brothers. They had a court hearing yesterday. Their family will be there. Their case is still active, so they can't speak, but their mother, she'll probably be there and she'll speak, and their attorney will be there. And I'm going to try to get a couple other people out too. to speak, and hopefully we'd be able to draw some more public attention to this case. This is a very important case, and like Abdul Malik said, we can't let this get swept under the rug.
That's right.
You know, we can't let it, because 2 years is too long. The Attorney General got to say something, you know, and we may have to go back down to Trenton. I don't have a date, but if they don't say something soon, we might have to go down and do something in the justice, the justice cop.
Well, wasn't this? And you talked about it before. This was Britnee. This was the bill that was the bill that was passed was that there had to be an independent investigation, right? And the independent investigation's been 2 years and nothing.
And in the bill, there are benchmarks. The bill says that after, I think it's 180 days, which would be 6 months. After 6 months, the AG is supposed to report out on the progress of the investigation. It's been 3 times 6 months, and there ain't been no report. It's 20 months now, and it'll be 24 months on January 1st.
And we've heard
but
nothing.
hopefully, if we raise enough hell, and that's what has to happen, quite frankly, we raise enough hell, hopefully he'll come out and say something. You know, this is a serious issue. I had a brother call me today from New Mexico. He's in New Mexico. He saw something. He saw what I posted, Abdul. He saw what I posted about Monday on Facebook. He called me from New Mexico. He was in a situation where the police fired on him 90 times. 90 bullets. 90 shots. And he got hit 7. But somehow he survived. And as usual, they charged him. You know. But I did a little research. Them cops in New Mexico are off the hook.
Mexico is a bad state.
They are off the hook.
Bad state, right? We talk about, you know, our folks, right? New Mexico is a large indigenous population. You know, our indigenous folks are really catching it in New Mexico. It's a bad state on the question of police violence. So this is a national question. This is a serious problem. We were talking about Meet the Press earlier in the show about the need to respond to that and to push them to go further on this dialogue on things like that. As we get ready to go into our last segment, Donna, why don't you ask everybody your favorite question so we can
Naima and Malik, can we come back to where the frame where we're all in? I normally when we have guests, and I know this is very emotional for you, but still, it's a relevant question. When you're sitting around and you're thinking about Carl, and you're trying to get through the next moment, you know, this is a hip hop radio talk show. What hip hop artist, individual, or group are you listening? Do you listen to that when you have those moments when you're thinking about Carl that just help you, you know, kind of get your mind right?
I don't know the name of this daggone rapper, but it's the title, I believe, is "We All Gotta Leave Someday," and it's a rap song. I don't know the name of this artist, but I literally think my brother every time I hear that song, because the words in that song makes me think of him, and I that's my me moment to actually sit in my car and just think about everything that, you know, transpired leading it up until his passing.
Okay.
And I literally play that that's like my anthem. I literally play it like every morning, like when I go to work and on my way home, I play that song.
All right, we gotta find out. We all gotta leave someday. Okay.
Yes, I'm gonna text you it as soon as I find out who that artist is. You'll hear it.
Okay.
Is it Kivo Money? Kivo Money?
Oh, yes, it is.
Who is it? Who is Zay?
Look at you. Yes.
Zay, And who is it, Malik? And the Stylistics is not a rap group, Malik.
All right, y'all know,
I'm with Malik. That's my rap group.
you know I'm not into the rap thing, but I'm gonna go to the Frankie Beverly and Mays thing and say that.
Nice.
Yes, joy and pain, joy and pain. That's
right.
Doing.
Like sunshine and rain.
Sunshine and rain. That's right. Like it was, we felt the pain when Carl died, and at some point we're gonna feel the joy, and the sunshine when everything gets justified. So that's where I'm at with it.
Okay.
Thank you both.
Thank you, guys.
Right, love to your sister and to the children. Monday we in the streets. All right.
Y'all gotta have a good night.
You too.
All right, Justice Carl Dorsey. Right. All right. Our next segment, our next guest has come along. Jonathan, take us away.
All right. So we are honored to have Dr. Dennis Rogers on the show with us. It is a game supposed to be happening. It's supposed to be a good game.
That's right.
Larry, you should have stayed on, man. We could have, Larry can always.
Larry back. Tell Chairman to come.
Yes, absolutely. So, but we hear there's a good game going on tomorrow, and we have Dr. Dennis Rogers, who leads a nonprofit organization that actually deals with this, like the I'm sorry, man, I just got all this stuff. We have Dr. Of the Diamond Dayson Youth Foundation. The Diamond Dayson Youth Foundation is sponsoring. They sponsor a lot of stuff, but they also are sponsoring this tailgate, this tribute to the Morehouse Howard football game that is going to be played in the Meadowlands, and I believe they were also partly of the organizers of this and a champion for HBCUs. He's a graduate of Howard, both master's and doctorate, and he was here with us today. So,
that's right. The classic is back. I was riding in the car this morning, and they said the class. I was like, "What? The classic is coming back."
Howard versus Morehouse.
Nobody in there watching the game. Everybody out there tailgating.
So what's going on? What's this game tomorrow?
Peace, everybody. It's a pleasure to communicate with you. How's everybody doing tonight? Everybody's good?
Everybody's good.
Doing well.
Good. So, yes, Brother Austin, welcome back, Brother Hamm.
All right.
And thank you, Brother Muhammad and Sister Donna Kay, for inviting us on to share words about this game. As you mentioned, there used to be the National Urban League Whitney Young Classic, right? Everybody knows the Classic. It was a beautiful gathering about people and the excellence that we are. And so some brothers up on that tradition and put together this HBCU New York Football Classic. And so my buddy Eric Gant, who's a Morehouse man, and myself, a Howard double alum, we got together and said, we got to help this thing. But in order to set it off right, we got to connect them to an HBCU community like no other. And so we wanted to partner with Newark, New Jersey, specifically because of the mayor and the HBCU alum in this community. And we want to make sure that we grow this game in the future so that Newark, New Jersey is the destination spot for all of those visiting. We want to put heads in the beds in the hotels. We want to do community-based activity and organizing because we know how rich and how powerful the community culture is in Newark, New Jersey. And as a Howard alum and an HBCU alum, I want to shout out, first of all, our ancestors who made a way for us to be educated at a time when the world and the nation did not want us to be educated right after Reconstruction. And for all of those who've come before me, who are alum of Johnson C. Smith, I met some Golden Bulls, and who are alums of schools from Southern University to Grambling State to Alabama A&M. You can go to every one of those Southern states. FAMU, we have alum that are here in Newark, New Jersey. So what we're doing
University,
is, Shaw, what you know about Shaw? Wait,
With
I
Shaw
taught at Shaw
U.
University. You gonna get me tearing up, emotional brother. I grew up on Shaw University's campus. And when we wore our football jerseys to the football game, as young boys stand on that field with those grown men in our view that were playing ball. And in fact, the mayor and the mayor's brother have been working with us to this year. We're going to do more next year. We're sending 50 students from Newark, New Jersey to the game. And next year, we're going to have their students there in their football jerseys. So when the camera pans, they see all of these new Jersey students in their new jerseys actually enjoying HBCU football. So Shaw University, you know about and all our HBCUs. You're a graduate of Shaw?
I didn't graduate, but I went to Shaw. But Dr. Rogers, at the latter part of the Classic, before they stopped having the game, I asked the Urban League, why didn't they take that opportunity to do a college fair? I hope that's a part of something that you guys are doing. But since you have all of the HBCUs there and a lot of the alumni there that you're going to have. I mean, you go out, everybody's selling this and everything. There should be one row that's just the HBCU colleges, and students have an opportunity to fill out applications and learn about
that. Makes perfect sense. We're doing voter registration at the game. There will be alumni from the various universities. This year, their first year in, we're helping turn things right side up. And one of those things that need to be right side up is we need representatives from each and every one of our 100 HBCUs with that universal application where a student can apply to multiple HBCUs at the same time. We're looking tomorrow to do something at Military Park. Military Park from 12 noon to 6 p.m. The game starts at 3 at the Meadowlands. But what we're doing in Newark is we're actually going to HBCU roll call. We have all alumni that are in the area to come out to the park. Music is going to be free, open to the public. The security being provided by the city. We're partnering with the parks. We got our insurance in order, our permit in order. And we're going to ask alumni from the audience to come up on stage and to share some of their history with the HBCUs they attended. And then we're going to have the Malcolm X Shabazz High School Band to perform, because we know that bands unite our HBCU culture. So when we conceptualized this idea, we said we want to come from outside of Newark and do something in Newark, promote something. We want to partner with the city. We want to grow this so that next year there are 4 games playing. There are 2 games. There's a step show. There's a fashion show. HBCU culture is on full display in Newark, New Jersey, and we'll have a full year to let the world know that next year when you come to the game, you got to stay in Newark. You got to taste Newark food. You got to talk to Newark people. You got to enjoy the culture of Newark, New Jersey before you go to the Meadowlands to enjoy the game.
Wow. Mayor and
that's you, the
staff.
And the mayor's an alpha brother. Okay.
Yeah. And he's backing our play. Yes, ma'am. So we're gonna do a stroll. If you dust off your shoes, all of you Greeks, and come on out and do your strolls. Let us know who you're representing. What we really understand is this: the game should grow and become better and bigger every year. But we have to partner with our community, because you can't just roll up in Newark or the Meadowlands, do the Urban League Classic under another name and not that history. There's a young brother, Andrew Baker. He reached out to Mark Morial's office in an effort to do a baton pass, if you will, from what was here to what is yet to come. And what I'm saying to everyone listening, and I thank you again for this forum, is that we're here to partner with Newark. We're not coming into your city to do things and not respect what's already here. You were here before I was here. You got history to share with us. We want to highlight that culture and put that on the platform of this game. That's why we're here.
Mark Morioff, for everybody's benefit, is the executive director of the National Urban League and the former mayor of New Orleans, Louisiana.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Talk about. Yeah.
So,
Go ahead,
tomorrow it's going to be at the Meadowlands.
That's right. So it's two things going. The game proper starts ends at 6 p.m. They're having a tailgate at the Meadowlands. What we've done is we've come to Newark and we said we want to partner with you. Let us do an event in Military Park, free and open to the public. So the name of it is HBCU Garden Party. We're here in the Garden State, respecting the culture, working with the city to bring HBCU culture that's already here, to raise it up, put the camera on it, and let the young people know that when you see all these stars, all these hardworking people in Newark, these are alum of HBCUs. Not Howard at Morehouse. I'm a Howard man, so I got a thing for Howard, but they're HBCU alum that have paved the way in Newark and our other cities, and we respect them all. The game is going to be great. I want Howard to win, but this is bigger than a Howard Morehouse game. That's the point I like to make here on your show.
Okay.
Dr. Rogers, I put a note in the chat for you, so make sure you copy that information down. Okay.
Thank you.
This is going to be. This is awesome. I'm just happy. I was in the car, and when I heard that, that was like the best announcement I heard. So I wish you continued success, and it's happy to see it back. And I know that it'll get better and better each year.
That's right. And Mrs. Dakay, tickets are still for sale for the game, and you can. They start opening the gates at 10 a.m. For those who've not purchased their tickets, you can go to www.hbcunyfc for HBCU New York Football Classic. Now listen, they call it a New York Classic, but what state is it in?
New Jersey. We had to
I
tell
can do
them
that.
with the Super Bowl. We had to do that with the Super Bowl.
You know what? And the thing about your stadium, it's the largest NFL stadium in America. The Dallas Cowboys Stadium holds 80,000 people. That new stadium they built in Las Vegas holds 62,000 people. This stadium holds 82,500 people. So what we want to do is make sure that next year we actually have that many people there. It's going to be televised on NBC Universal. If you go online at hbcunyfc.com, you can get the details. I'm putting that in the chat. There we go.
We got it. Yeah.
There you
yes,
go.
ma'am. Let me do a roll call here on this call. How many people are either from a HBCU, graduated, or have families from family members that have graduated or are currently attending HBCUs? Could you give us a roll call?
Well, Donna, you go. Well, Donna, you go first.
Well, I went to Shaw. I did not graduate, but I did attend Shaw U.
Shaw Bears.
Shaw U, yes. And one of the things, while we were at Shaw, they had a financial crisis. And
Yes,
we
ma'am.
were able to, a group of students got together and we brought one of the Black History professors back, and we organized, and he came back, and they had a financial crisis, so they cut African American history. We like, what? We had a HBCU. We African American history.
We need our history.
So
yes, ma'am.
we had an organized effort. We went to the president, and it was Talbot O'Shaw at the time. And because of our effort, one of the retired African American professors came back and taught for free.
Well, tell you something about Shaw University. Shaw University's radio station is 50 years old. If I can just give you a little feedback, I know time's getting away from us. They call Shaw University the mother of Southern HBCUs, because Shaw was first, and from Shaw came North Carolina Central University. Leadership came from Shaw. North Carolina A&T State University. The leadership was Shaw alum. Fayetteville State, Elizabeth City State, all came out of Shaw University.
And I know you're flexing good for sure, but just very, very quickly, my grandfather graduated from Tuskegee, and one of his teachers was, and I found this out less than 10 years ago. One of his teachers was George Washington Carver.
Wow.
That's deep. So Tuskegee
And-
University,
Wow.
Bam, I just want to share with your audience. Tuskegee University was the university from which the idea of Black Wall Street was birthed. As a matter of fact, O.G. Gurley down in Tulsa, Oklahoma, was a colleague of Booker T. Washington. He sent O.G. Gurley down there to actually organize this land that became Black Wall Street. So when we talk about Black Wall, Tulsa, Oklahoma, all these other places, thank you, Tuskegee University, for giving us that.
We are going to have
Dr. Rogers,
as
before you leave, our Councilman Crump, he's a Morehouse man, but our DJ is going to ask you a question. But his aunt was one of the, I believe, one of the last living persons from the Black Wall Street.
Wow. So my brother's a Morehouse man. Just Morehouse real quick. I'm going to do a little bit when you do the roll call. Morehouse man, you can tell a Morehouse man, but you can't tell him anything. A Morehouse man is a very intelligent brother. And we know Morehouse gave us Dr. King, Benjamin Elijah Mays, so many other in Atlanta.
We are going to have you back on. We are.
Yes, sir.
Rhino,
Rhino, ask that question. You got like 5 seconds to get something in, Rhino. Because you be silent.
And tell me about your aunt.
History right now.
Peace, Brother Rogers. Brother Rogers, how you doing, brother?
Peace, good brother. Good to see you. Brother Rhino,
right,
CMZ.
You as well.
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah, so I just wanted to ask you, it could be in your coming up or where you are right now. Who would you say in the hip hop culture inspires you the most?
Inspired. So I'm Miles Davis, man. I'm gonna get my jazz in, my Thelonious Monk, right? Someone did that a little earlier. On the hip hop scene, who really inspires?
Who inspires you the most?
I'm an old school dude, man. I really like what Dead Prez stood for. You know, they stood for we got to learn to protect ourselves. We got to learn to push back against government when it overreaches. We got to learn that, study the ant and how the ant builds a nation. And when we operate in unity, nothing can come between us. So I'm a Dead Prez guy on their philosophy. It's some good beat makers out there. So I'm a beats guy. Often I'll listen to motivational speaking with beats. And I listen to Minister Farrakhan and Malcolm X and others because I need that music to keep me going. But I need that message to feed my soul, man. That's where I'm at with it.
That's what's up, man. And big up to Stickman and N1 from Dead Prez.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that. Good brother.
Our executive producer, Ed Riley, said his family is from South Carolina State.
Oh, wow. South Carolina State gave us James Clyburn. Okay, yeah. They gave us the young brother, he's on T now. His father was a South Carolina State alum. And whenever you see a HBCU, let me tell you something. You see students, you see alumni, you see faculty, staff, administrators, you see people that put together their dimes, nickels, and quarters to send their children off for a quality education with understanding you're supposed to come off that campus and contribute wherever you are to the betterment of our people. That's HBCUs.
Absolutely. And so thank you so much. Thank you so much for
yes,
coming
sir.
on, Dr.
Thank
Rogers.
you all very much. Be strong and peace to everybody.
Thanks, Dr. Rogers.
All right, DJ Rhino, what's going on, man?
What's going on? Peace, peace, peace. So, so Donna, I know you know the lyrics to Sugar Hill Gang's Rapper's Delight. Today is the 43rd anniversary of the release of that song.
43rd anniversary.
I want to hear it.
Oh, that makes me feel like a dinosaur.
Stay up, jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to beat.
Boogie to beat.
Now, what you hit is not. Go ahead.
That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted because every time we get into hip hop, Every time we get into hip hop, Donna goes into those lyrics. So I wanted to give her an official reason to go into those lyrics. So today's the 43rd anniversary of the release of that song "Rapper's Delight" by Sugar Hill Gang.
Yeah.
You know, which was ghost written partially by Grandmaster Caz with Cold Crush 4. Wow. You know that story that he was the original writer of Big Bank Hank's verse that everybody knows so well. That was Grandmaster Caz's rhymes. That was his pen that he was saying on that song.
Hotel Holiday Inn.
And the group actually, the group just recently got rights to their name again, to the Sugar Hill Gang, because they went through a whole legal battle and they ended up having to change their name to Rapper's Delight. They ended up naming themselves after the hit song. But they just recently got their rights back to all of their names and everything like that. So big ups to Sugar Hill Gang and salute to that song. That was the groundbreaker for putting rap music on wax and hearing it on vinyl and it's spreading around the world. So it all started right there.
How long was that song?
You said they lost their name? You said they lost?
Yeah. At one point they weren't even allowed to go by the name Sugar Hill Gang.
Why?
And they were going.
Who had it? Was it like a place in Harlem? It's like, where's Sugar Hill? Like what was?
I think for a while, Sylvia Robinson had locks on a lot of stuff, man, at Sugar Hill Records.
Oh, you mean?
Yes, yeah, so that was an old battle. That was an old battle that they were dealing with. You know what I mean?
So their manager. So you're talking about their manager way back in the day. You're talking about their original manager was like, your name's not your name. Your name's my name. I own your name. And they're like, yo, we slaves. We're suing you.
Remember Prince?
Let me tell you, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5, they went through that same battle too. They went through a similar battle. So yeah.
Rhino, how long was that song? Like 15 minutes?
15 minutes, yeah. That song was about, rounded off, it was about 15 minutes long.
I was
just listening to it today too.
I was in my first year at Rutgers, Newark, right there when that dropped.
I seen them downtown Newark at the Paradiso.
Wow. I had just moved back to New York City. I was living in Long Island for a little while. I had just moved back to New York City. I was only like 9-10 years old when that song came out.
Yeah, I was 10 years old. I was in 5th grade.
I remember Paradiso on Broad Street, Donna.
The Paradiso on Broad Street. My aunt bought me tickets to go see them, yo.
That was 1980, wasn't that 1980?
79.
79. Yep, going into 80. Yep. Because it was like late 79 it came out.
That kicked it off, man.
Yeah,
that kicked it off.
That was the one that set it off. That was the one that set it off. But another one that set it off, I want to say happy born to. Today's his born day. Terry T. LaRock Keaton. I'm wearing the shirt right here. It's T. LaRock and Jazzy J. This was the single that they put out. It was the very first single that had the Def Jam Records, the Def Jam recording stamp on the label. Def Jam wasn't established as a record label as of yet, but they were trying to at that time. They were just in the works of it. Rick Rubin, Russell Simmons, DJ Jazzy J, T. LaRock, who was also the brother of Special K, who is one of the Treacherous Three.
All the time.
Special K is one of the Treacherous Three. He's T. LaRock's brother, and he also helped pen the song "It's Yours," which was a huge hit because at that time, we only heard really up-tempo songs using the 808 drum machine that we heard, like we heard it on Planet Rock, African Bambaataa and the Soul Sonic Force, Planet Rock, but you never really heard it on a slower tempo type of a beat. And so this was one of those early situations where you heard that. And T. LaRock was very lyrical. He had a lot of these big words, commentating, illustrating, description giving, adjective, expert. So he was really like saying some stuff. And if you look at LL Cool J, when LL Cool J came out, he was kind of a cross between T. LaRock and DJ Run from Run DMC, from out of Hollis, Queens. And that's kind of where LL's style came from, because in LL's first song, I Need a Beat, he also used a lot of big words. That was like the style. And as I said, T. LaRock and Special K were brothers. And Special K was part of the Treacherous Three, which was really a group. You know, we talking about Kool Moe Dee, LA Sunshine, and Special K.
Wow.
They were very. That was like, I always call them the first educated rappers, because these were the guys that really put the big words into the rhymes and really like took you in, you know, really made you use your mind when it came down to lyrics. It wasn't just like some easy fly off the head rhymes. These guys really, you know, put their mind to the pen and really, like, you know, wrote out some serious lyrics. You know what I mean? And so that's where T La Rock comes from. He's from that's in his bloodline. So that's where that comes from. And then LL took from that and, you know, became the sensation that he is. You know what I mean? But T La Rock was the very first one. Again, you know, that was where we first saw the Def Jam recording stamp on the label. He was actually on Party Time Records, which was a subsidiary of Streetwise Records, which was Arthur Baker's record label. But Def Jam started there.
What label was LL on? What label was LL on?
On Def Jam Records.
He was.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, so LL ended up being LL Cool J ended up being the official baby of Def Jam recording. He was like the first official artist, because after It's Yours, T La Rock never made anything else with Def Jam Records. He moved on and did stuff with Mantronics and was on Fresh Records and Sleeping Bag Records.
LL came to Zanzibar and did a show at Zanzibar in Newark.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Larry, we were just talking about that, Rhino, how that whole club circuit, because I used to be at Sensations. Like somebody would come to Sensations, then they go down to Zanzibar, then they might go to another club, because the club stayed open to 4 and 5. So somebody could come to Newark and hit like 2 or 3 clubs in one night.
Oh yeah, I remember back in the day seeing Big Daddy Kane at Club 88.
5 clubs in a night.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Larry?
I said 5 clubs in a night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we
club hopping, man. We used to be club hopping back in the day.
Right. Yeah. Just think about that. Leaving Sensations like 5 o'clock in the morning. You go get something to eat. I mean, people would be coming down Broad Street from Zanzibar, and then you meet them, and then there used to be a donut place right on the corner of Broad and Market.
Oh yeah,
right. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Real quick, I know we're about to run out of time. I just this is hip hop related in my opinion. I want to say rest in peace to the great musician Ramsey Lewis. We lost Ramsey Lewis. Yeah, he was a great pianist, man. Great keyboard player. We lost Ramsey Lewis on the 12th of this month. Just 3 days ago, 4 days ago. We lost Ramsey Lewis. Ramsey Lewis was born.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Ramsey Lewis was born in Chi-Town, Chicago, Illinois, 1935. This brother put out 80 albums. He's got 80 albums under his belt, man. So he's got a lot of work. 80. I just did a tribute set to him, like a special pop-up tribute set to him yesterday. Baba, Zayed, and John, I sent the mix to y'all. So check your Gmail. But I did a tribute set to Ramsey Lewis, the late great Ramsey Lewis. We lost him on the 12th.
Wasn't his big hit Wading in the Water? Wading in the Water? Wasn't that one of his big hits?
Yeah, he had a lot of great hits. Of course, everybody knows. I know my generation. We all grew up on the Sun Goddess album.
Yes.
Yeah, man. Where you see the sister looking like the sun,
right?
Golden like the sun. We grew up on that one. Then the Salongo album from '76. Yeah. And that featured Earth, Wind, and Fire. That was Philip Bailey that you heard in the background in the vocals. Maurice White. Yeah.
And I sent you. Did we have an artist get murdered this week too? I think I sent that to you.
Yeah. Rest in peace to PNB Rock.
Yes.
He unfortunately. Yeah, unfortunately, he was in the wrong Roscoe's out there in LA, man. Because word went around since his death. Word went around like the Roscoe's where he was. Like nobody goes to this Roscoe's because of how dangerous it is. But and I don't know if this was a situation where he was just out of place, where he didn't know the severity of the surroundings he was in, but apparently, like as the story has it, the lady that he was with, the young lady he was with, posted, what they were doing or where they were. And this place is known for stick ups and robberies and stuff like that. And he was just at the wrong place at the wrong time and the wrong information. I'm real particular about stuff like that. Even when the sister Timberlake was on earlier, I know she was outside, but you got to watch when you online. You got to watch what's being shown. You don't want your building number or your address, the street.
That's right.
The name of your street or whatever, wherever you are, especially if you're live, you don't want that stuff to be, broadcasted, online, because it's dangerous, man. You got the wrong people out here looking for, to get into certain things, man. You just gotta watch yourself. You gotta watch your surroundings. And like I said, I don't know if he knew where he was. I don't know if he knew what was going on, because apparently, he's a rapper. He's got money, he's got jewelries. He's doing him, but he got caught up in the wrong spot, man, at the wrong time. He's only 30 years old, man.
Oh man!
And Rhino, on the second Tuesday in October, could you make time to come back on with Reverend Conrad and Chairman Hamm, and we're going to talk about reporter Irie and how he broke down Jay-Z's lyrics about what Mike Wallace interviewed Farrakhan, and then that interview. So we're gonna do that. So can you be on that too? Because we want to do that for the hip hop thing and talk about that whole piece. Because did you get a chance to look at it, Chairman?
Yeah, I saw. Oh, Chairman.
Chairman, did you?
No, not yet. Not
okay,
yet.
so
yeah, it was deep.
Yeah, so yeah,
I like the way Ari goes into his hip hop analysis.
Yeah, so we want to do that the second week of October, so we can all be ready. Okay.
Second
week. Just remind me. Just keep me posted on it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But that's it. That's it for me, y'all. I know we out of time. So.
We gotta find. I know I went past West Side tonight, and somebody was out there rapping. We gotta find out what's going on out there.
There was an art show at West Side
tonight.
It was Artists Against Violence show at West Side.
Oh wow! Somebody was getting down too.
Yeah. I got a call. I missed the call. They were actually wanted me to open the show up with a libation, but I missed the call. It was an Artists Against Violence. It's another art.
Jonathan, can we get the principal on soon?
Oh, we'll try. We'll try. But we have reached the end of our show, and we want to thank all of our guests that came on. We want to thank the Honorable Mayor Raz J. Baraka. We want to thank Britnee Timberlake, Assemblywoman. We want to thank Larry Hamm and the family of Carl Dorsey, and we want to thank our HBC Dr. Dennis. I think Rogers, Dr. Dennis Rogers, right? Like our HBCU champion, and of course, glad to have all of you on the show.
The classic's back.
Rhino, and of course Larry Hamm. Every time that you are on the show, I always learn something. So
that was a fascinating discussion y'all had with Mayor Baraka. I was listening, by the way.
Good discussion.
Nice.
It was fascinating.
And Brother Hamm, I just wanted to tell Brother Hamm, look out for that Aubrey album by Hakeem Green. I just heard it the other night.
Okay.
It's got some powerful stuff on there.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris is supposed to share with everybody. All right, Jonathan.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you next week. Until next week, take care. Peace. Be safe. Be careful. See you next week.
Peace.
Peace.